This episode, I sit down with Joseph Ruzer, filmmaker, photographer, and storyteller, whose life is like a movie in itself. Born in the Soviet Union during the final years of communism, Joseph grew up surrounded by chaos, scarcity, and survival. His family fled the collapsing regime and started over in California, where he discovered art as a way to make sense of the world. Since then, he's built a life around creativity, directing his own films, producing many of the reality TV shows you see on TV today, and capturing the world through his lens with a rare sense of emotion and story. We talk about what it means to start over, how trauma can shape art, the challenge of turning passion into a career, and how technology like AI changing what it means to be a filmmaker and an artist. I consider Joseph one of the most creative people I've ever met, one of the hardest workers I know, and it's an absolute honor to call him a friend. Without further ado, here's my conversation, Joseph Ruzer. What is it about a New York bodega or like a pizza place that makes it authentic that when you walk in, you know that floor hasn't been mopped in at least the last decade?
Yeah, I think whatever, fecal matter particles or urea particles that are on that floor like seep into the pizza, and as disgusting as it might sound, it adds to the flavor, after generation after generation,
As funny as that sounds, I actually believe that. I was walking around New York a couple months ago and it was starting to rain. And I'm walking and I was like, oh, it's so nice. This is so relaxing. And then I'm eating my pizza, by the way. I didn't mention I have a pizza, right? So I'm eating this slice of pizza and the rain's dripping down. And I look up and it's just old, rusted, dirty ass building and just pigeon poop. And just, I'm sitting there eating this. This is covered in pigeon shit right now. This is fucking disgusting.
Yeah, that's part of the charm of New York. It's one of the reasons why I left. I love to visit New York, but yeah, I couldn't imagine living there now.
Yeah.
But I am kind of a germaphobe, and as you are.
I've watched you. You're a legitimate germaphobe, bro.
No, yeah, I one time on the subway, I was in New York, and I was with a friend of mine at the time, and somebody sneezed on the subway, and this was before COVID. Like, this was like 2018, 2019, and people would sneeze on the subway, and I would literally like walk to the other side of the subway. And sometimes I would, if I had an opportunity, the doors were open, I would get off the subway. So I was with my friend and somebody sneezed by us, and I just like didn't even look at my friend. I just walked out of the subway. My friend was like, yo, like, where are you going? And I was like, the doors closed, the train went off. Like, I couldn't be around people that sneezed. And people were called me crazy at the time, like, oh, you're a germaphobe. Well, look what happened a year and a half later. We got COVID, and everybody was like, oh, wait, maybe Joe had a point,
Were you always like this, like since you were a little kid?
No. I mean, I grew up, I survived Chernobyl. I grew up in...
When you say you survived Chernobyl, I think you need to go a little bit deeper into that. What do you mean you survived Chernobyl? I've heard this from you so many times.
Well, I was born in Russia. When I was born in the 80s, it was the former Soviet Union. So for those familiar with communism, that's what I was born into. Communist life. We had, it was the end of communism. The fall was coming. But yeah, I grew up with bread lines and persecution for certain types of people. It was a completely different world. But I joke about surviving Chernobyl, but I was there when it happened. I grew up in Moscow, so we were several hundred miles away. But my grandfather, who was a physicist, was worried for us because even though we were several hundred miles away, he was an expert in nanotechnology and nanoparticles, and he was urging my parents to either like keep us indoors or not go outside, because even though we're hundreds of miles away, those particles can still travel, and they did travel in a large area outside of the epicenter of the disaster.
How long did you live in Soviet Union at the time? How long did you live there for?
I lived there for 7 years. Basically, if you live in a communist country, you can't, it's not like the US where if you want to leave, you can just file some paperwork and get out. My parents filed, I believe 8 years before we were allowed to leave. And, only, people like Baryshnikov or, the, Bolshoi Ballet, the theater could travel, outside of the country back in the day. That's why you had people like Baryshnikov and Alexander Gutunov, another famous ballet superstar, basically they would defect when they would get to New York or wherever they land in the U.S. But the normal population, regular people, could not just pick up and travel wherever they wanted. They could not immigrate wherever they wanted. So, long story short, my parents applied probably before I was born, I'm guessing, and then in the summer of 1991. That's when the Soviet Union was on the verge of collapse. We had tanks marching down our streets. We had, the threat of war on the TV every day. But that's when they were on the verge of collapse and they started letting everybody go. So basically, my parents got a 10 days notice, like, hey, you need to leave the country within 10 days. You need to come and with the entire family, hand over your passports. You need to pay to revoke your citizenship because you're a traitor to the country. You're no longer going to be a citizen. If you want to leave. So my parents had 10 days to basically pack up, revoke their citizenship, say goodbye to their friends and family, some of which they knew they would never see for the rest of their lives, and head over to America with, no money. Luckily we had my grandfather was able to immigrate earlier because we had a family relative, an American relative in Tucson, Arizona that was born American. So they invited my grandfather, who in turn invited us. But that whole process took almost a decade for for us to get over. So we arrived in Berkeley, California, because my grandfather was a scientist, a physicist at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory. And we started our new life there in 1991.
Were you allowed to come to America because your grandfather was a scientist?
Well, yes and no. I mean, it was because of my grandfather's cousin, who is from Tucson, was an American citizen, American born. He made a formal invitation.
Got it. So it had nothing to do.
Well, it's because of him. He invited my grandfather. My grandfather came over, and then my grandfather was able to invite us. So it was like that kind of system was allowed, but that really definitely helped us along to immigrate, to be able to immigrate. Yeah.
So do you have any memory of tanks rolling down the street or?
Yeah, I remember since I was 2 years old. I have a really good memory, like early memory.
Yeah.
So I remember everything. I mean, I remember so many things. I remember the tanks. I remember just watching Gorbachev on the TV. And, I used to do gymnastics. I remember not understanding what was going on, but one time I got a lot of anxiety watching him on the TV because I didn't know what was going on. I just saw like war on the TV, and I got like physically ill. I got a fever, I remember, and I couldn't go to gymnastics because of what was going on TV. So I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't understand the specifics and the threat, but as a child, you feel that, something's not right. So yeah, I mean, we were extremely lucky to get out, especially now with the state of Russia is now, with being ruled by a psychotic dictator. Yeah, we were super lucky to get out. I mean, a lot of people got out, and we started our lives in California, which was at first a complete shock to be a kid living in this country where it's cold and everybody is kind of, has this kind of like expression, energy. It's like, there's years of persecution, years of trauma, years of mass killings that this society has gone through. So it's understandable why the Russian stereotype is like these like really kind of like serious, mean people. But yeah, it's culturally an oppressed society, and that trauma carries on from generation to generation to generation. So when I got here, I remember I went straight into summer camp, and I didn't understand any English. I maybe knew a few words from this class I took when I was a kid in Russia, but maybe 10 words I knew. And I went straight into this Jewish summer camp, and the sun was shining. And I remember I was on the bus, and I couldn't understand, but everybody was singing, everybody was smiling. And I got a headache because I was like, why are these people so happy? What are they smiling about? I don't understand what they're saying. Like, I couldn't understand why everybody was so happy. And then at the end of the day, I remember we drove onto this field, the bus, like at the end of the day, later I found out we were doing a friendship circle. I had no idea what we were going to do. And I was panicking because all these kids were getting off the bus, were getting onto a field. And in my mind, my 7-year-old mind, I thought, oh, now is the time where they're going to line us all up and they're going to execute us. Like, that's what I was thinking at 7 years old. So luckily, yeah, yeah, it's pretty dark, but I assimilated pretty quickly. I learned the language really fast. I got popular in camp because people would be like, "Hey, go up to that girl and say fuck you," and I'd be like, "Fuck you,"
Oh, because you didn't know English.
I didn't know English. They're like, yeah, we can tell them like whatever like bad word.
Americans are so nice.
Yeah, it's a really nice welcome. Thank you, America. Thank you, Americans. So I got really popular because I'd literally say the most inappropriate things to people because I was just trying to fit in. I didn't understand.
Right, you felt cool as soon as they were like, yeah,
yeah. But then, like, eventually I did understand the language, but the bad words stayed. So I kept saying the words, but I understood their meaning. A year later or so.
And so were you? And I don't know if I missed this, but were you living with your grandfather? You were living with your parents? Were you all living together?
No, my grandfather like set up a house for us in Berkeley when we arrived, and we lived in the house for like a month the first month, and then we got a house after that in El Cerrito, which is a town not too far away. And my grandfather and my grandma and my family, we lived as a family, and my grandma lived in a senior home, and my grandpa lived in a separate senior home, so they were divorced. But yeah, my family with my grandma, we came together.
So you witnessed some pretty fucking awful stuff, but I think because it's interesting because when you're younger, I feel like it's in a sense you're almost bulletproof. It's just normal. It's just part of every single day, so you don't really realize how traumatic what's happening. Do you think so? You're growing up, in America now. Do you think it affected you at all? Just I know, like you said, the bus story, but was there a lot of trauma that's translated through just relationships, trying to meet people, trying to understand? Because that's a lot to go through as a kid. And then you come to this place where it's just, everyone's happy. Nobody really realizes how fortunate they are.
Yeah, it was a unique experience. I mean, the first year I remember being really difficult, just because of the language. And at the time, I was 7 years old. At the time, the Russian school system started in kindergarten and went until 10th grade. So you would start school at 7, kindergarten at 7, and go until 10th grade. Well, because I came right before my 7th birthday in the summer, I came to the United States and I went straight into 2nd grade. So I had no school at all, no English, and I went straight into 2nd grade. And that was tough. I mean, I remember like being called on and just like crying because I didn't know what was going on or what to say. But it forced me to really learn the language quickly because I had no choice. I had to survive, and I learned the language within that year. So and then I was in the English second language class with all the other kids, and then eventually they kicked me out of that class because you're too advanced for these other kids, because I like learned it super quickly, and I was reading at advanced level, more advanced than my peers. A lot of them. I was reading within a year. I was reading at a 3rd, 4th, 5th grade reading level, which was cool that I discovered that within myself. But it kind of all that forced me to learn really fast. And I honestly don't remember learning the language, learning English. I just remember within a year being fluent.
Everything you went through, growing up in the Soviet Union, going through all this PTSD, do you think it kind of like somehow affected the art form that you eventually took on, as a movie producer, or not a movie producer, but like a director, creating movies, all these different things that you've done? Do you think that it was because you did it at such a young age? I remember we used to talk about. You said you started at 8 years old, like making movies. Do you think that your past trauma kind of fed into this craft that you eventually took on?
Yeah, I mean, I think I had a very, I guess you could say, uh, unusual upbringing. A lot of things shifted and changed by the time I was, a young kid. I'd seen a lot of things, experienced a lot of different things, a big shift in my culture and surroundings and living situation. So yeah, I think all those things gave me a perspective of the world around me that a lot of people, did not experience. And yeah, I think that did affect me in a way. Some of it was traumatic, some of it was inspirational, some of it was knowledge, some of it was pain, some of it was joy. So I think a lot of those things together kind of sculpted me into a creative kid, a kid that gravitated towards the arts, that wanted to perform, that grew up in an artistic household with a father who was an artist. So I was drawing, I was painting, I was acting, I was picking up a camera at a young age. I was doing all these things and kind of beginning to shape my creative identity and creative journey from a young age.
And when did you actually get involved, like actually like make like your first film, for example?
So I think before my first film, I started acting at the age of 9 or 10. And it was funny. My fourth grade class, we were doing a production of the story of Martin Luther King Jr. And, there was no casting process. They were picking names out of a hat. And, for some reason, I picked the name out of the hat and it said Martin Luther King Jr. So I was a white Martin Luther King Jr. in fourth grade. And I did the whole, like, I have a dream speech. And back then it was like, you're a kid. It didn't matter. And obviously, today there would probably be like, people would be up in arms about that. But back then, like, it was, I don't know. I don't remember it being an issue, but I was like 9 or 10 at the time. But I remember like afterwards, people were coming up to me like, "Hey, like you like killed that performance. That was like a really good job." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." Like I wasn't expecting anyone to say anything, but people were coming up to me. It was like, "I really liked your performance. I really liked your performance." I was like, "Oh, cool." Like I got some positive feedback from something I did. And granted, I didn't know the language 2 years before. And now I'm here on the stage reciting this incredible speech and getting praise for it. So I was like, oh, I kind of caught the acting bug at a young age. At 10, auditioned for this acting company, young acting company called Young Actors Workshop. At the age of 10, proceeded to get into that program and create over 30 productions within 7 years, from 10 to 17. I was in 30 full on productions. So I got experience acting. We also wrote the plays. We kind of turn these classic works into modern adaptations, whether it be a movie or a book or a existing play. We used improvisation and worked with teachers at this college in the Bay Area to create these kind of modern plays. And we had sold out shows and we were pretty popular at the time. But I got really a lot of experience acting, directing, writing, improvisation. At the same time, around 12 years old, my dad bought our first VHS camcorder and I started using those skills to create skits with my sisters. And we started around 12 or 13. I started just making little shorts, little comedic shorts. We're editing them within the camera. So it's like if we did a take and we messed up, we had to like rewind the VHS tape, stop it, and then record the next take over that previous take. And we were like editing everything within the camera.
Yeah.
So it was like, it was a fun experience learning how to like, like the rudimentary basics of editing. And then, when I got into high school, I took a video class and we had software at the time, we had Final Cut 7 and Adobe Premiere. So I was learning how to cut in high school, and we had a community access channel within my high school, Berkeley Community Media. So basically on the weekends I would go in and I would learn how to edit. I would use their Final Cut Pro facilities to cut my own short films. I was a host of a local community access television show where it was called Homework Live, where me and some like high school kids were like tutoring kids that would call in with homework problems. And, it was live back then. So people would call in like, Joe Ruzer's a fag. And I was like, okay, next caller. Like we can't have that on the air. So yeah, I was doing all those things simultaneously. I was also starting a film festival and kind of like beginning my kind of like creative obsession. By the end of high school, I kind of dropped out of school pretty much. I graduated, but barely. And because I already knew what I wanted to do, at the time I wanted to become an actor, but I was also interested in filmmaking.
Okay. And so you got into filmmaking. Where we're gonna go back like to early. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in the Bay Area. Once I immigrated from the United States, from the Soviet Union, I grew up in Berkeley, California, and surrounding areas, surrounding cities. I went to all Berkeley schools growing up, elementary, middle, and high school. And yeah, it was a very eclectic place, the birthplace of the hippie movement. It's like, you see a lot of characters in Berkeley. You see extremely left leaning characters, very colorful characters.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see people. One of the first things I filmed in high school was like a protest of naked people and People's Park, which is a legendary historic park. Of course, those people the people that are naked in Berkeley are the people you don't want to film, like the people you don't want to see naked. So, unfortunately, I was exposed to that. But you see a lot of extreme characters in Berkeley. So,
And so did you, after Berkeley, you said you lived in Oakland for a while, right?
yeah, Berkeley, Oakland, Richmond, El Cerrito, all those cities. Yeah.
What was it like back then? Because I feel like it was pretty chaotic. I mean, Oakland's always been kind of a chaotic place, but I mean, did you kind of grow up in, not the best neighborhoods or?
Yeah, no, I grew up in like a lot of my time was spent in Richmond after we moved to Richmond, California, which was also at the time like the top 10 murder cities and murder capitals of the country, in Oakland as well. So yeah, I mean, I didn't grow up in like the hood, but I grew up like in not the greatest of areas. Not to say that I'm like some gangbanger or anything like that. Like I
You
was,
look like it.
yeah, I know. I had like laser surgery for my teardrops tattoos that I had
Yeah,
removed,
that's
but
fair. What was it like, growing up in Berkeley? Like, is this the early 90s?
early 90s, yeah.
Okay, so early 90s, you're growing up in Berkeley. Did you move around a lot or were you just kind of like staying in this central area?
Yeah, so we lived in Berkeley for a month, technically in Berkeley, and then we moved to a neighboring city, El Cerrito. So it's pretty much the same area.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean it was nice when we had a really small house in a neighborhood. We rented a house and it was a 2-bedroom house. Were 6 people and 2 dogs. Really cramped. But we made it work and we were family and we were very literally tight knit family. I didn't really have my own room until I was 16. Grew up with a room with my 2 sisters at the time. We welcomed my third sister, and yeah, it was like a very unique, very loud, very intelligent, very funny, very creative, very loving family that was able to start a new life in the States. Coming from a place, we're Jewish. We moved away from the Soviet Union because Jews were persecuted in the Soviet Union, among other places in the world. So we were able to start, a life again. Especially my parents were able to start a new life for themselves, for their kids, and it wasn't easy, but my parents instilled in us like great work ethic, hard work. My mom would force us to practice Russian in the house, Russian dictation, Russian reading every weekend. If I wanted to play Nintendo for an hour on Saturday, I had to take dictation. I had to read and write in Russian, which I hated at the time, but now I'm still fluent and I'm grateful to my mom for that. So, yeah, we had a really, really unique upbringing. It's kind of hard to explain, but it was inside of our house. It was like Russia, kind of, and then the outside was Berkeley, California, El Cerrito, California. So we're kind of living multiple realities all at the same time.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like it was kind of like the same danger that you felt in the war zone that you kind of felt like you were when you were like living in these areas in California?
I mean, growing up in Oakland, yeah, is at times it was scary. I grew up
Yeah.
also in Richmond, California. Moved to Richmond, which was at the time one of the top 10 murder capitals of the United States. So yeah, you'd hear gunshots and you'd hear about people getting murdered. Luckily, we weren't in the worst area of Richmond, which was like South 23rd Street. We were a little bit north, but we were still below San Pablo, which wasn't the most desirable area. And yeah, also Richmond is close to the Chevron refinery. So, every couple of weeks you hear, which means like the siren was going off, which means like there was some kind of like mess up at the plant. So it means like shut all doors and windows because toxic chemicals are are in the air. So it's like not too far removed from Chernobyl,
Yeah.
It's like the new the alternate version of Chernobyl. So
Yeah, the American version.
the
of
American
Chernobyl.
version, yeah. But yeah, sometimes you escape danger and communism and persecution, and you come to another place, and that has its own unique dangers and other dangers that you have to watch out for. So it was I don't think you can compare it to that, but yeah, like at some points, sometimes I didn't feel safe, and yeah, sometimes I was jumped and sometimes I was attacked and I had to kind of defend myself and in a different way than I would have in Russia. But yeah, I think it also gave me some character growing up in the Bay Area.
Some kids are growing up with like that same environment, but for the most part, You don't see it as often as the early, late 80s, early 90s immigration, Russian, kid moving to America. I feel like that was it was a different time back then. And kids today, it's funny because I watch it all the time. They're just mindlessly strolling through TikTok or just like sitting there watching, just mindless propaganda. And I just think to myself, how fortunate they are to not have been around during this time. And like, I didn't grow up, I'm not an immigrant. I didn't grow up like that. I didn't see any type of wars growing up, but I still grew up around, alcoholism, all kinds of weird shit. So I look at kids today and a lot of them have it really easily. And it's weird because they almost are growing up in like this weird titled type attitude where I'm worried that if there like isn't some type of adversity in your life, it's almost you just want to become an influencer, you just want to become famous, and there's no backbone, there's no soul behind it. Where it's you wanted to make movies, I wanted to make photos. The minor part of quasi fame that comes with that is a part of being an artist or something like that, but that's never necessarily the intention. Where it's becoming more of the intention at this as we watch this generation. I don't know, man. It's interesting to see the dynamic of what's happening over the few years.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's this new generation. It's like I don't really fault them for being the way that they
Yeah,
are. I fault like the generations before them because
totally.
all these generations, we just wanted everything to be easier. We just wanted everything to be nicer. We just wanted to work less. We just wanted to have fun more. We just wanted to automate everything. And great, that's happening now. But this is the result. This lazy generation, and not to blame them. Like that, they were handed this, and
It's not their fault.
yeah, it's not their
Our
fault at
boomer
all.
parents brag about their $50,000 house that they bought for 50 grand back then. That's now worth $2 million, and they're sitting there with 5,000 square feet. We're never going to sell this unless BlackRock buys us out for $4 million. It's not their fault. These kids got handed a really shitty deck in a sense, but there also is like that sense of entitlement in they didn't immigrate here. They didn't face war. They were born in America. They were born to wealthy parents. They had a home. Although those parents are like, we bought it for 50 grand. You'll never have this until we fucking die. So I do feel bad for the generation, but also suck it the fuck up and figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, that's also my response a lot of the times. And I have a younger Gen Z sister. So I think like there's definitely generational differences between like my older sisters and my younger sister. But at the same time, like I get their perspective too. Like,
Yeah.
like they, I mean, I'm happy that I guess they didn't have to go through some of the hardships that others from my generation and had to go through to an extent. But I think, yeah, definitely. I think hardship builds character, and without it, I think you need a little bit of suffering. If you grow up with everything being handed to you, that's great. I as a kid, I envied the rich kids that had everything handed to them. But now looking back, I'm like, no, I have character. Even though I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, more like a Russian wooden spoon, but like it built something inside of me. It built a drive. It built a desire to become something, to build something that's bigger than myself, to give me that push. I think we need that.
Well, it's good. Like, I think it's the same reason I send my daughter jujitsu every day. It humbles her in the sense that, like, it puts you in a place where you're not so fucking cool as you thought you were. You're getting your ass handed to you by a kid that's 3 years younger than you and 50 pounds lighter than you. And that humbles you. And I think that's like an important factor for like a lot of kids that are growing up. And, I do feel bad in the sense that they were handed a shitty deck of cards. And I hate to say fuck it, figure it out, because it is very nonchalant, like, fuck you. But I think there has to be a solution, because if you want it, the problem is that you lose your passion when you don't even gain a passion if you have no interest other than you want to make money and survive. And how are these kids supposed to find a passion if all they're doing is constantly trying to survive? And I mean, look, I'm one of them. I couldn't buy a house. Now homes are, $500,000. And literally couldn't buy a house until I was almost 40. So I do resonate with them. I do understand the situation, like it's almost impossible, but at the same time, how are you supposed to discover a passion when you're constantly trying to survive? And I know we were always trying to survive, and that's maybe how we found a passion. And maybe it's a different type of survival. I don't know.
But I think also the goals have changed, and it's not like try to get that house, try to get that perfect 9 to 5, try to get that perfect career, and try to get that house with the white picket fence. Like, no, I think younger kids are investing in crypto. They're buying meme coins. Like, they're like, oh, check out this NFT I have, or check out this portfolio as opposed to look at this house I have. The houses are unattainable. Okay, so fuck that. Pardon my French. Yeah. Like, I'll get this portfolio and I'll rent a nice place and I'll watch my crypto rise. I think the benchmarks have changed since we were kids.
Yeah, I think, have you heard of the Labubus?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know the whole craze about them, and every like kid is running out to get them, even no adults. Right. I think that is an effect of everything that's happened, in the sense of, well, fuck it, I can't afford a house, I can't afford a Louis Vuitton purse, I can't afford a Labubu. Just feels just like it. And the most rarest one, let's say, is $90. What, you spent $90 on this? Well, it's like that's the new way of like getting some type of endorphins out of it, where it's okay, well, I can't afford this house, so I got a Labubu. I think like the whole American dream that we were kind of sold, I don't know if kids are really looking at it anymore and going, yeah, I want that house, I want to have a kid, I want the white picket fence and a car. Kids are, half of them are, using Turo. They're not even, they're renting by the day. They're using Teslas to get around, or fucking Uber. Half of them don't, rent. But there was an old article back in the day, I think it said, you will own nothing and be happy about it, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing, I'm fucking it up. I'm too stupid for this, but it's something along the lines of, you will own nothing and be happy about that. And I think right now we're at that precipice in evolution, where it is becoming the point where there is no middle class. There are people who just will own nothing and be very happy about it, and just be happy renting for the rest of life, because fuck taking ownership on something. You've got insurance, you've got liability, you've got possibly a depreciating asset. There is a possibility. And then there's always ultimately having to pay land tax, which means you really don't even fucking own the house that you actually own.
I mean, I think people are just waking up to the fact that the American dream that we've been fed was a scam. Yeah. And I think part of that is buying a house. Part of that is going to school. You don't need, I'm not saying this across the board. There's certain things that you need to go to school for. If you want to be a lawyer, a doctor, obviously you want to go to school. If you want to be a filmmaker, if you want to be an artist, if you want to be an influencer, if you want to be a lot of these things, you don't need school. You can be an autodidact. You can learn things by yourself without school. And, that idea, like I didn't go to college. You didn't go to college. How much pressure did I get? I don't know about you, but I got so much guilt and so much judgment and so much, looking at me in a certain way because I didn't go to college. I didn't go to college, yeah, but I was passionate about something from an early age, and I knew I wanted to pursue that, and I didn't want to spend another single minute in a institution that gave me anxiety, that made me like sweat, that made me so uncomfortable every single moment. I knew what I wanted to do, and I was 18, and I was like, I'm going to do it. But the amount of judgment that was laid upon me, it's just like I can still feel it today. So if I I
still feel it at this very moment. I can hear my mother talking to my father. Well, I just don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing. He's doing some podcast with John. But yeah, it's like we're all fed this thing, like you have to do this, you have to do that, and if you don't do it, you're going to be judged, and you're not like this idea, this cookie cutter idea of the person that I thought you were going to be. So I don't know. I think like I said, college is for some, definitely. It's some people are really good at school, and some people need to college to advance their careers and to hit those milestones in their careers, and that's, God bless them for that. But it's not a thing that everybody needs across the board. And there's other ways of learning. Some people learn in different ways. I learned by doing. So as soon as I got out of high school, I wanted to be an actor. So I went to LA. I got on a TV show. I learned how the sets work, and I learned how people direct, and I learned how people produce, and I learned how where the lights are, and I learned how the camera movements are. I can't learn that in school. I can't learn that by looking at a diagram. I learned just by seeing. I mean, I got to be started off as an extra. I was on sets with Clint Eastwood for $1 Million Baby. I got to see him work, and just
great movie, by the way.
Yes, thank you. I think I'm the
shout out Clint.
Yeah, I'm. If you look back, I'm the guy on the 45th guy on the right in the back for one of the boxes.
Yeah, if you're listening right now, Mr. Eastwood, Joseph says thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eastwood. No, but like that was invaluable experience to me that you can't learn in college. You just at least for me, that was an incredible way of learning, and I was fortunate enough to be kind of like thrown into the Hollywood system for a few years to learn a lot.
Yeah, I feel like Hollywood can go either way, like can really fuck a kid up. I mean, as we've seen, but it can also really benefit your career. What was your first gig in Hollywood? Was it like Nickelodeon? I remember you always said we're on Nickelodeon, a couple other things.
Yeah, so my first gig that I booked and filmed was a Church of Scientology training video.
I can see you in that.
Yeah, I was. It was interesting. I don't know if I talk about this, they're gonna come after me, or Tom Cruise is gonna show up at my door.
Yeah, I was about to say there's some black SUVs pulling up. I think we're gonna cut this right now.
Yeah, it was called The Reactive Mind. I played. My role was Egg Boy. Basically, I was a young high school kid that. I guess I was given a rotten egg by accident at a picnic, and I felt sick. And then as soon as I saw an egg, or I saw someone from that picnic, I felt sick. It was a ridiculous video, but it was crazy. They made us sign like a waiver, like you will not take any psychiatric drugs while filming. And all the crew members were in matching blue khaki outfits. It's really bizarre. But that was my first gig. But eventually I began like doing extra work, like I told you. So I was on hundreds of sets for 2 years, all across LA with no car, just bussing it around everywhere, which is awful, real rough.
Yeah.
And then
you're a Soviet immigrant,
I survived Chernobyl.
Yeah, I'm like, you're good. So you walked through radioactive ashes.
It was nothing
to get to school with bare feet.
Exactly. So eventually I landed on this show called Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide. Try saying that 5 times fast, and then and yeah, I started as an extra. I was on the second season. I became like a regular extra, and then the executive producer Scott Fellows liked me and asked me to audition for a part. So I got the part for the third season. So I was in 7 episodes of the third season as the bully Mike. So I was like 21 at the time.
Okay.
Dressing up as a 14-year-old with a Letterman jacket and a backpack, like slamming kids into lockers.
Bro, that's fucking typical though. Any show that you see in the 90s that looks like they were supposed to be, we were supposed to believe these kids were in high school.
I know. In reality, that was me getting slammed into a locker in high school, but like now I was like getting revenge. So yeah, it was like I would be partying until 2-3 in the morning, get up, sleep for a couple hours, get to set at 7, put on a middle school outfit, and get to work. So it was an amazing time. Had a great time on that show. Learned a lot.
Yeah, I feel like you learn a lot with like early experiences, especially with that kind of stuff. I think that there's something to like, it's funny because like you'll hear quite often like, oh, the starving artist, there's nothing romantic about it. And I get it. There is nothing obviously romantic about it, especially as you get older, but there's a learning curve. There's a process. And it's like when I was 15, I think, I got my first job. I was, working construction, and that was obviously for family. You couldn't even work at that age. And then 16, I got my first legal job, working, I think it was McDonald's, like a starter job. And not, nothing to anybody who's working at McDonald's as a career, but I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life because I just didn't want to flip burgers. I wanted to do anything else, to be honest. I fucking hated it. And so I needed that motivation though, because then I went to a restaurant and became a busboy or actually, no, a dishwasher. I was a dishwasher and I got fired for smoking weed. Like the eighth time that they said, you cannot smoke weed while you wash dishes. I'm thinking, dude, how am I supposed to do this sober? So I get fired
Good
from this.
question.
Right. Great question. So I get fired from this job, move on to the next job where I'm a busboy, and then eventually like work my way up to server because each job is less shitty, which inspires me or motivates me to keep moving up. And eventually I realized I hate all of this, and I picked up a camera and started discovering my passion. I wasn't happy, I don't think, until then. I would think I was lost in direction. There was nowhere. I wasn't going anywhere. Where you had a passion at a young age, you discovered you liked filmmaking. There was no passion other than I want to get stoned with my friends, sell some weed to survive, and I'll work at this restaurant. And, there was nothing guiding me. So I think every time that things got less shitty, it made me want to move up another level, like a video game. And life is essentially a video game, in my opinion. It's a simulation. And each level that you move up, you feel a little bit happier. And so I think that was like where my heart would get fuller every single time. So I think that's an important aspect of growing up where you do take that shitty job, you do eat that shitty living as a starving artist. I know it's not a romantic thing, but if you just make it gloriously and you're just handed $1 million or you just sell your art right off the bat at such a young age, I think it can be detrimental, not to everybody, because there are some people who can get through it, but for the most part, you see young stars, Justin Bieber, anybody, it's detrimental to their health. I mean, you see them as they get older, it fucks with them.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. And I've worked with some people that blew up and became famous, and God bless them for that happening to them. And that's awesome. But yeah, I agree. I think it needs to be a slow kind of build, and there needs to be ups and downs, unfortunately, for there to be longevity in somebody's career. And it's also a test. I think there's tests in your artistic journey to whatever the higher power is, if you believe in a higher power or not, whatever that is, to be like, hey, are you sure you want to do this? Are you still sure you want to do this?
Yeah.
Like,
You sure?
You sure you want this?
You good?
How bad do you want it?
Yeah.
You had this dream. What are you willing to do? Are you willing to how hard are you willing to work to make it happen, to make it your dreams come true? And I mean, at least I've experienced that. I experience it now. Like
We all do, right?
yeah, we all, I mean, especially now with everything happening with AI, I mean, like I feel like my job is kind of obsolete almost. Like I have to kind of figure out how to navigate in this new terrain. I have to figure out how to still make money and survive and still be true to my craft. And I think a lot of my peers right now are, type on LinkedIn like, "Hey guys, I'm available to work." Like,
Yeah.
no shit. So are we all. Like, but like some of us are thinking ahead and thinking of different ways that we can make money, because the traditional ways that we were making money the past 15, 20, 25 years, they're gone. And I think there's still like trails of them left. There are little cookie crumbs left that people are like still hanging on to and believing that's going to be their salvation. But like, no, this game has changed already. And a lot of people are either in denial about it, they're scared about it, or they don't know how to pivot, or maybe it's too late in the game for them. A lot of people are selling their houses that I know in LA. I know some camera operators that have committed suicide. Like it's real. I know a friend of a friend was this big executive producer for a big show, and they, wrote an article about him that he's, just celebrated that he won an Emmy as an executive producer for the show. And the article says he takes a moment to celebrate and then goes back into his car to finish his Uber Eats route for the night. So like, that's what's happening in the game. That's the reality of what's happening. If people are clinging to the same jobs or the same ways of making money that had been fruitful for them for the past 2 decades, like they're not going to be clinging to those for much longer. You need to let go and figure out a new path.
Yeah, I remember early on when I got into photography, there was, I don't know, maybe 5 years into it, or maybe 4 years, because I sold my first print about 5 years into it, but I don't know, it was like my first year of shooting. I mean, I wasn't making any money. I wasn't working, so I was running out of money. If anything, I had some savings from working at the car dealership, but I was dead broke, man. Like almost living in my car broke. It was pretty bad. Like I was, um, talking to like one of my mentors who had taught me a lot about photography, and I said to him, is my work even good enough? Am I even meant to be a photographer? And he looked at me and he goes, if you have to ask me that, there's your answer. No, you're not meant to be a photographer. And that hit me in a really fucked up way because I took it like, well, like I was younger. So I was kind of like, well, fuck you, dude. But as I've gotten older, I really understood the purpose of what he was trying to say, which is that even though you're not selling your art, was that the purpose of this? Was that the whole reason you did this was to sell? Aren't you technically a photographer because you actually enjoy taking photos and you love doing this and it doesn't matter if anything ever sells or if anything ever gets printed? And I think a really cool example, I just watched this incredible documentary. Have you ever heard of Vivian Maier?
Yeah.
So Vivian Maier was this incredible one of, in my opinion, like in a lot of other photographers' opinion, one of the greatest street photographers ever in history. I'm gonna pull up her work because we've got this.
Yeah.
So check this out. So Vivian Maier, pulling her up. This is her work. Her work had never really been seen before until this or not even a photographer, this guy who I'm probably gonna screw this all up, but he loved going to these salvage auctions or real estate auctions.
Okay. Yeah. I know this story. Yeah.
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 And then found all these films, all these photos, some of them, so almost 2,000 rolls of undeveloped film. We're talking,
It's incredible.
yeah, storage full of all these. And it's just like, this was her. Very interesting looking lady. Not like, you don't see any happiness on her, just always stone faced in all the photos, all her self portraits, maybe possibly the inventor of selfies. But I think what's like really interesting about her story is that she never saw really her. I mean, she saw some of her prints. I think they said there was some postcards and stuff like that. But for the most part, she never got any fame for it. She was never recognized for it. She never got any credit because she didn't fucking need it because the beauty was in what she was doing. And I'm not even sure in the documentary they talk about, I'm not even sure if she'd be happy that her work was recognized.
Yeah, I think this goes back to that idea of the American dream that we're promised, that we're always, that the idea of being successful and like the idea that's been spoon fed in our minds of being successful is that you have to
Make money, have a mansion.
correlate commerce with the art. Yeah, like you're only successful as a filmmaker, you're only successful as a photographer if you sell $1 million, $2 million, whatever it is. If you have this, if you attain that, you're not successful because you make good art. It only has to correlate. Once it correlates with commerce, then that makes you successful. That, like Van Gogh, he was a loser, considered a terrible artist, or
never sold
pushed to the side, never sold a single painting until after his death. But now that he's sold all these paintings, now he's amazing. He was always amazing. He was always incredible. But the only recognition comes when you correlate that your output with commerce. Then you're worth something. So I think yeah, that's right. It's like even if you didn't sell a single print, that's not why you got into this. I didn't become a filmmaker so I could be rich.
Yeah.
I became a filmmaker because I love being a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And like sometimes over the years I produced all these things, and after a while I'm like, am I really doing the projects that I as a filmmaker want to do, or am I just doing them because this is now my profession and I'm getting paid? I'm grateful to be getting paid for these projects, but I have to make these projects not under my parameters. I have to make them under the parameters of a network, of a studio. So I'm always being squeezed to make something using my creativity, but with their framework. I have to draw between the lines in the coloring book, and they're making the lines, and I get the crayons, but they still have the lines. As a creator, as an artist, I want to draw outside the lines, and I want to create new lines, and I don't want anybody to tell me what I can and can't do within those lines. So I think that's part of the trade-off, and that's part of the hardship of loving what we do so much and exchanging that for money, is that we have to deal with that, and we have to figure out, are these the kinds of projects that I want to do? Is the exchange of money worth the sacrifice that I have to give up, based on the guidelines of these other factors that I have to deal with when I'm engaging these projects?
Yeah, I feel like turning your passion into a business is a very dangerous game. We've talked a lot about that on this podcast with so many guests, because we all kind of like feel that fine line in between, not really necessarily losing your passion, but just trying to be able to do what you love and at the same time cater to the people who are essentially paying your bills. And once you get not addicted, but once you rely on that income and it actually starts to become main, part of how you survive, there's really no way to get away from that. And it becomes, you almost get more and more sucked into it. And I was talking to this artist 2 days ago. His name's Trevor Jones. He's one of the first crypto artists, like the early guys from like 2017 or 18. And he ends up not listening basically to anybody, and does an open edition. And everyone's, scarcity and don't, have an overabundance of work. And fuck that. I'm an artist. I'm going to sell my art. This is what I'm here to do. And he does an open edition, and it's a cool story because he's with his wife, and he puts his phone down because he's like, we're not going to look at the phone. She tells him, we're going to put it in this pillow and we're not going to look at the phone the entire time that this open edition drops. And in 7 minutes, he makes $3.4 million. In 7 minutes, his open edition sells the fuck out. Insanity, bro. And he's beside himself because he's never made money like this in history. And I think it's hard when everyone around you is telling you not to do this, not to do something. But isn't that what fucking art is? Isn't that what rock and roll is? Is breaking the rules, overcoming boundaries, doing shit that nobody else is willing to do because you have to take that risk. It's all about shooting for that risk. There are so many one-hit fucking wonders because they took that risk. Harry Styles would not exist if he never left One Direction.
Perfect example.
Perfect fucking example. The Foo Fighters would not exist if, Dave Grohl had never, decided after Nirvana, I'm going to start a band. And even while he was working with Nirvana, he was trying to start that band, thinking about it, but never did it because it's like, I'm in Nirvana. So if you don't take these risks, if you don't push outside yourself, you're never going to discover what you're capable of. And I think right now, in this weird world that we've ended up in where AI, crypto, all this crazy technical renaissance shit that's happening that's never in history ever happened and is so accessible, I think it's a matter of time before we get to the point where everyone can make art. Anyone can shoot a movie with AI. Anybody, I've seen so many short films shot with AI. We're getting to that point where anyone can do it. And that being said, it's like, where do we go from there? Where does art go from there? Where does everything go from there? Because it's going to be so available. And I think right now we should be taking advantage of that moment. We should be taking those risks. We should be failing as much as possible because I'm going to be honest, man, nobody forgets my failures or nobody remembers my failures from like 2020 in crypto because so much shit has happened since then. And so many people have fucked up since then. News moves very quickly. Make mistakes, try things. I'm not saying fuck over people. Don't lose integrity in what you do, but at the same time, don't sacrifice your integrity or, your dignity, but make mistakes, try things out because right now is probably one of the only times in history that we're ever going to get this moment where we can play with godlike technology with our primal ape brains. And that is some crazy shit that I think most people haven't really wrapped their minds around because they're sitting on Facebook complaining about the next AI image that, someone posted in their fucking thread.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, especially maybe of the older middle-aged generation, not the young kids, are having a hard time embracing the AI change. Especially I know a lot of my colleagues that have been in the game for 20, 30, 40 plus years. That's all they know, and it's, after a certain age, it's hard to adapt and it's hard to change, something that you've spent your entire life owning, a skill that you've practiced for years and years and years, that you've been passionate about for this time. I know a lot of my peers, we've sacrificed so many hours and missed important life events just to be on set and just to be, doing grunt work and doing the grind and working the 18-hour days and exhausting our minds, our bodies, and our souls to create television, to create films for the masses. And at the time, we were thinking we're making this amazing product and we're part of a collective artistic or collective or creative journey or product. But then looking back on it after all these years was like, now that all these things are so effortless and you can just do a lot of these things with the press of a button, or you don't need them at all. Like was all that time worth it? Did we waste all that time? Was there a point to anything that we did for all those sacrifices that we made? I think a lot of people, myself including, are looking back in the past like 10, 15, 20 years and being like, was there a point to all of this now that this change is happening? Like it used to be such a different era. It's like, okay, we're in the film era and we have all this technology and we can make these creative projects and we can do these creative things. And it was a kind of a golden era for a long time. But I think nothing lasts forever, and everything changes. Art always changes. It's always going through a metamorphosis. I mean, we started with cave paintings that eventually you had regular paintings. We had people doing a traveling theater through the forests, performing for people in the woods, and like people dancing by campfires and like painting things on walls, and that evolved into more advanced and masterful paintings, and then we began to play around photography and then motion pictures, and we had sound, and then we're fast forward to today. We've had years and decades of amazing motion pictures with picture and sound, and now this is I think equivalent to when we went from silent film to talkies, when we added audio to features. It's those people that just made silent films, even though there were some masters, creative masters that made silent films, if they weren't able to adapt to the addition of sound, they were left by the wayside. And I think that's the same thing that we're facing today, is like artists need to learn how to adapt. Maybe it's not fully embracing AI 100%. Maybe it's making a feature film, but maybe you can implement AI seamlessly into the film, use it in a way that can work seamlessly into the creative project that you're filming on camera, or figuring out a way to make it work with the AI. But I think it's inevitable that the change is happening. It's now. So I think people need to stop denying its existence and figure out a way to use it and implement it into their work, into their art, as opposed to shying away from it or rejecting it altogether.
I think we're going to almost have a new definition of value, because it's interesting, because we put a value typically when we talk about art, for the most part, of like how long it took someone to learn their craft, the effort that went into it. I think there's multiple factors and variables that go into what gives something value, like even pricing anything from someone painting your house, someone painting your car, someone washing your car. There's a different value system. It takes a lot longer to paint your car than to wash it. So to wash your car, it's maybe $100. To paint that thing is 10 grand. So the reason you pay 10 grand to a guy who paints your car as opposed to a guy who's charging 2 grand is because the guy who's charging 10 grand has been doing it for 25 years and has learned his craft, and he can charge that amount. And the guy who's done it, charging 2 grand is doing it down at your neighbor's, garage, and he's been doing it for 3 weeks. So there's a value system. But what we're talking about is this future of like, you can learn something in a matter of seconds, because there will be things like Neuralink where they implant this chip into your brain, and you no longer, like you said, did I waste all this time learning these things, or what, doing all this? There's going to be a point in history where we're going to see people have the ability to learn something extremely quickly. And then what's to give that value anymore? Like, if I can learn how to paint a Rembrandt in a matter of seconds, well, what's to give my work value? Or if I can learn to shoot like Ansel Adams in a matter of seconds and just go out there and have all the experience and knowledge that I've gained over the last, 18 years of shooting, what's to give the work value anymore?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to go back to what's going to become valuable are real life experiences, the hardships that we used at the time we used to face back in the day, like that aren't going to be around anymore at this time of this future time that you speak of. But like, I think those things that that give us character that we talked about earlier, that shape us as human beings, that give us that push, that drive, that grit. I think that those real experiences that you can't replicate, you can only experience in real life, will become valuable.
But like like AI, for example, like obviously I believe that photography, like a lot of people say, like photography, this is the death of photography, which I've heard countless times throughout my career from Instagram to the iPhone. And I don't see AI any differently. It's just like another form, of symbiotic relationship with the technology that we already had. And I actually like see it almost as a benefit because I think people will still want real photography with stories behind it that someone has taken that has a soul to it. Just like people still collect vinyl records. I mean, it's a dead, industry, but there's still people out there that still love it. I mean, almost anybody out there owns a vinyl record. So I don't think people will stop collecting photography shot by humans because there's something to a guy going out into the wilderness or whatever the photography is, street photography, whatever the case would be. There's something to it. There's a story. There's something about, supporting the artist. There's a culture to it. Then that's what makes a piece so relevant is not only the emotions it evokes, but the culture. But when we're talking about AI quickly teaching us something to where we're learning it instantly, that changes the definition of value so much because it's not just about, can I create something quickly? It might still take you a week to create it, but now you're able to learn it much faster. Does that make sense?
No, I think it's an interesting point, but I also think that like if there's an exhibit of Van Gogh or there's an exhibit of you that you have just learned how to paint exactly like Van Gogh, I think the original Van Gogh is still going to do better, outperform the person that learned how to paint with AI. Not to say that that won't be interesting to watch. I just think that there's something about the original that people are drawn to. I mean, the fact that we have all this technology and we have films and we have HD filmmaking and HD amazing resolution prints,
Yeah.
but people are still going to, a Van Gogh exhibit in Las Vegas is still going to sell out faster than any of that. And that's from very long time ago. I think people are still drawn to the human element of art, no matter how advanced the technology gets. I think we're all still human at the end of the day, unless in the future we're going to merge with the machines. So that might change. But for now, before that day comes, I think we're all still attracted to the element that expresses something about us, about humans that we're attracted to. I mean, I think it's like we can have the AI is amazing visually, but to me, a lot of filmmakers in my field are always talking about the next camera or the cool gadget, or they're like obsessed with the equipment. But to me, it's like, what are you saying with your project? What are you saying with your film? What are you saying with your short? I don't care about what camera you use. I don't care about what actors you had. Like, what is the idea of what you're trying to say and express? That's the most important thing. What is the story you're trying to tell? And what impact are you making with this? You can shoot it however you want. You can make it look as beautiful as you want, but that's comes secondary to the idea and the thought behind what you're trying to express. So I think with AI, there's a big focus on the visuals, which is great. I think the visuals are incredible, even though they're not created by a human. There's still something captivating about it, and still something really watchable about it. But it has to have that human element to make it impactful. It can't just be the visual.
Yeah, I think without story behind it, like something that like a soul behind it, it is going to be harder to resonate with. And I mean, it's funny because photography already is a hard sell to most collectors, It's already not considered um an art form to many people. So it's to think that AI is somehow going to take that away. It might take headshots away, for most people, sure, that understand how to use AI. But if you think AI is going to be selling landscape photography anytime soon, I don't know, man. Just doesn't seem. And if it does, I think we should be rooting for it. I think we should want that because fuck, at least someone's selling it. you know?
Right.
And that overall helps the market regardless. That's how I see it. And maybe I'm just too optimistic overly, but uh as a good friend once said, the world belongs to the optimists. And I truly do believe that the older that I get, that the more uh the more pessimistic and negativity that we fuel towards the future, the 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 dumber we're gonna look when history proves that we were fucking completely wrong. And a great example is look at the internet, the early internet. How many people said the internet was gonna die? How many people said the internet makes no sense? Or even before that, cameras, they weren't ever created to make art. They were created as a scientific research tool to to capture scientific shit. So when you think about that, and then it became an art form, everyone was kind of laughing at it, like saying, "No, this is specifically for research." There was articles written, threads. That's kind of what we're facing when we're talking about creating a market for photography, for filmmaking, all of it. Obviously filmmaking is a huge industry, but what I'm saying is for smaller filmmakers, for people who the film industry is a very hard place to get into, and there's only a handful of people that are making billions, right? Where when you're trying to fit into this niche and trying to just even survive, it's a hard place. It's a weird, like you're in a very weird layer in between these very ultra major conglomerate film companies, and then here you are. And it's the same with photography. It's the same with a lot of art forms. And I think at some point we're gonna get past that like gatekeeping phase and get to a point where we're actually able to just create mindlessly and actually enjoy it and not have to worry. And I always bring up this kind of like universal basic income concept, but I do believe we're getting to a point where AI is going to take everything in the sense of like jobs for taxi drivers, Uber drivers, delivery companies. I can't think, honestly, of one single job that AI can't do, even in its current state, right now at this very moment, and do it most likely better than any human. So, we are going to get to that point. Like, there's pretty much, it's there.
Right.
We're going to need universal basic income for people to survive unless AI governs some type of economics or tokenomic system that allows us to eat for free. But I don't see that as a possibility at the moment. So that being said, you're going to have some type of income to be able to survive. And if everybody's getting this type of universal basic income, which, by the way, I don't wish for this world. Anyone listening, I'm not a communist. I'm not trying to wish for this world. I'm just saying it's inevitable. If you just look at what's happening, it's coming. So how do we operate within that space? And it's like, maybe that allows everybody to finally chase their passion. Maybe that allows what we've been saying all along, which is entitlement. I don't know.
Yeah, I just hope that governments don't find a way to control artists like they are now. I mean, even with the whole Jimmy Kimmel thing, I mean, it's like agree with him or don't agree with him what he said. Like, I think we as artists deserve to have a place to express what we want to express without any kind of oversight or censorship from the powers that be. I think as artists, we can and should be able to say things that are controversial.
But in order for you to be able to say, I agree with the people who march to save animals and fight for the rights of women or fight for the rights of dog, you have to also say, I agree with the people who are allowed to fight for the rights of Nazism, which is fucked.
Yeah, it's fucked.
Right? But is that freedom of speech? Is that literally what just is what we're talking about with everything going on in the world? Charlie Kirk died for dialogue. Isn't that what we all kind of believe? I mean, isn't that what America is kind of different from everywhere else, where you can say what's on your mind and you're not going to go to prison?
Yeah, for now, I guess.
So you have to condone hate speech. You have to, and I'm not saying condone but you have to say that's also allowed if I'm going to allow someone to peacefully protest. I'm not saying you can be violent, but if you want to be some piece of shit, racist fuck, I can't say no to you. I can't tell you can't do that because I'm allowed to be this person.
Right.
And that's what America was founded on, was the idea of escaping persecution, freedom of religion. This is where we're at in this, and that's the long-term outcome of freedom, is that it's almost, in a sense, a piece of anarchy. It is a sense of decentralization, because the freedom of transactions, the freedom to do what you want, that liberty allows us to be able to have this dialogue right now, where in some countries you wouldn't be able to do this.
Right. But I think to have full freedom, like what we're talking about, like the conversation we're having now, full freedom, without any kind of blowback, without any kind of censorship, without any kind of restrictions, I think you have to have that, like we're saying, without any kind of financial transactions involved. Because once you bring money into the picture, then you're you owe somebody something, or they have power over you. Like, oh, we actually want to kind of shift this idea here. We want to tinker this here. So I think if you bring what we do, if you bring what artists do into a space that's more decentralized, like what you mentioned, then I think we have the opportunity to create a space where we can make money for ourselves, just for ourselves, without any kind of middleman, without any kind of oversight, without any kind of third party restricting us or having, like, playing the marionette with us acting as the puppet, getting their messaging across.
Yeah.
I've worked for tons of corporations throughout the years that are, if you do the research on them, they all boil down to like one or two or three major corporations.
Mm-hmm.
But, I've had to implement certain messaging into the shows that I've created that are coming from the top. Some things are allowed and some things aren't allowed. It's very funny how that works. And dealing with S&P standards and practices, the censorship, sometimes some things you can say, and other times you can't say, depending on the climate, depending on the year, depending on the political situation, all this kind of weird shifting changes. Like one year you can say a certain word, or you can say a certain idea, and the next year that's banned. So I think we're kind of going towards a place, hopefully, where we won't have as much oversight. We won't have so much of a grip being held upon us by governments trying to muzzle us, or trying to make us say something according to their ideas.
Well, yeah, it's because it's interesting, like with what happened with Jimmy Kimmel, because it was, the FCC pressure with Brendan Carr, speaking out on the podcast. And then there was obviously, Disney had to make a move, and Disney's a privatized company. Well, they're publicly traded, but they're a private company. They can choose whatever they want. They can choose to fire people, like they can do what they want. They don't have to go by in the sense of freedom of speech. There is no violation in the sense of freedom of speech when you're a private company. You can fire people because you said this, you said that. So they were right in the justification of their actions, in the sense that they are allowed to do that. However, right in the sense of morality, ethically, I'm not sure that there's really the correct answer for that, because when you're faced in a situation where you could be fined, I'm not really sure what was going to happen. But they could have stood up. They could have said, hey, like, this, what he said, we agree, don't agree, whatever the case, they're allowed to do that. But in this situation, I think, like, what I'm kind of like leading to is that we're in a world where we have to continue having dialogue. And if you want to be able to say whatever the fuck you want, you can't be on another network that is owned by somebody else. And it's so deeply owned that you have to really look into it, because it's like it's a giant, like, I mean, it's a scandal right now, this whole situation about this, who's trying to create this conglomerate. I'm not exactly sure. I didn't dive in deep enough, and I'm not smart enough to understand this. But what I do understand is that when you are owned by a network, or you have your art form in somebody else's hands. You don't own that shit. They're not your keys. It's not your wallet type of, it's not your money. You don't own that. So therefore, you have to create a seat at your own table. You have to own your own streaming platform. You have to do whatever you have to do to be able to say what you want. I mean, Tucker Carlson is a great example. I'm not a huge fan of him. I'm not a huge fan of the shit he says, but he said, fuck it. I'm going to go on X. I'll go on my own stream. I will create my own seat at the table because my audience will follow me and they'll listen to me. And if you have something to say, they're going to follow you. And I think that's where we're headed with this creator mentality right now, where look at Instagram, look at Facebook, look at any platform. You're not paying for it. There's a reason you're not paying for it, because you're the fucking product. They own your data. They are the largest data mining companies in the world. They own everything, all your privacy. So when you really think about, they're taking all of your information, and then at any point they can just cancel your profile because you said something that they don't agree with 15 years ago. You made a dead baby joke in 2013 and they delete your profile, your source of income. You have gained 15 million followers. You made some joke in 2013 that nobody cared about, passed over, and now your account's gone. Or you're a streamer on Kick and you've got a guest on and she has a nipple slip. And they cancel your show and you're done. You had 50 million followers. Bro, this is the type of shit you'll see where I understand the censorship. I understand the rules. They're allowed to do that. You're on their fucking platform. I get it. But you're giving into their rules, their controls, their power.
But so would that mean that if for true freedom of speech, freedom as artists, we would have to own our own platforms?
No, you have to own. So, I mean, as I will always be an advocate for the blockchain, but you have to own your own contracts. You have to own your own identity. You have to own your own legacy, your own ownership, permanence, everything that would be the blockchain. It's funny because like so many people will say, well, I wish there was a tech that allowed that. Well, there is.
So
it's called the blockchain.
Explain that to people who don't know what blockchain is, what crypto is, because I think a lot of this, I mean, I understand it to some extent and I'm super interested in it, but I think a lot of artists, a lot of people like myself, a lot of people, filmmakers have no idea about this world.
Yeah. So if I were someone who was trying to lock in my legacy and make sure that nobody could, delete my profile and lock in permanence, there are applications within the blockchain. The blockchain essentially is a decentralized space that allows you to operate with freedom of transaction, freedom to do what you want, in the sense of, I can send you money without the bank questioning it. I can open up a smart contract, which is in layman's terms, a smart contract is a contract that I can program transactions into to do certain things. For example, when a house goes into escrow and you're waiting for the bank to send over the money and you're dealing with all these financial things, a smart contract could just make an escrow and you don't get that house until the money has funneled over into their account. So a smart contract allows this function, this mechanism to go through. So think about that right there, right? That mechanism of buying a house in escrow. Now think about the layers that can be built on top of that technology, all the things, all these, implement that into anything from art to movies. And I know it's right now a very easy thing to say, but when you sit down and really take a moment to understand all these layers that can be built on top of just that layer alone, you can create your own signature on the blockchain that allows you to be the only person who owns that legacy with your wallet. And there's so many things that you have to look into understand that. But what I'm saying is that when there's permanence on the blockchain to leave your legacy behind, you have this immutable space that is an open, transparent ledger that everyone can see, that they know where it's coming from. And in a world where we're not going to know if anything's real anymore because of AI, we're going to need that more than ever. And that's why I say there are platforms that are decentralized right now. I'm not exactly sure the names, but if you look up Be Like Water 84, 83, who's Mel, one of the geniuses in the space, she's one of those people who's working on those decentralized platforms because she's like, huge advocate of self-sovereignty. And I think that's where we need to kind of be headed as creators, is that there has been so much gatekeeping. There has been so many bridges to cross. And the reason is because you're getting exploited. You're getting cut out by these. You need to cut out the middleman, and you need to operate as a self-sovereign nation. And that being said, sure, you can still take those 50% cuts to galleries, things like that. But for the most part, you can operate on your own, because that's part of the equation, in the sense that you still own that identity. You still own your world. And Instagram can just take your money away in a second by just deleting your account, where I would like a space where nobody can delete my account. When I own an Ethereum address, johnknopf.eth, there's not a single fucking person on this planet that can take that shit away from me. I have it locked up on a ledger, seed phrases planted all over the country. There's just no way to get into that account, which means I own that account. I own that name. When I mint something, when I put my art on the blockchain, that came from me. There's no scam. There's no way to lie about that. That's the future of record keeping, the future of everything. So when you're talking about a platform that should be self-sovereign as a creator, that's where we all should be headed, is the blockchain of decentralization.
So where's the disconnect between, like, let's say colleagues that I've worked with for the last 15, 20 years that have no idea about this, and why are we just so brainwashed of working for corporations, and we are so used to just having to pay our taxes and deal with the studios and deal with the networks and not have our own, and getting accustomed to not having our own sovereignty and not having our own independence and having fear of that because there's no stability there. Like, where's the disconnect, and how do we get from this point where we are to, getting all that back and getting back our independence and being able to produce the stuff? Because the people I work with, we make TV shows, we make movies around the world. I'm talking about huge shows, Amazing Race, Survivor, crime shows, true crime, comedies, whatever you name it. I know people, we can make any TV show that you want, any film genre that you want. I have the people to make it happen. But we're used to working for the studios. We're used to working for the networks and being beholden to their demands and being beholden to their restrictions. So how do we get past that? And how do we get away from that system while retaining our artistic integrity?
So what I'm talking about essentially is a utopia, because nobody really actually wants freedom, which is fascinating to me. But that's just how I think humans operate in pack mentality. We say we want self-sovereignty, but nobody actually does. And I can give you a great example. Do you want your data to be secure? Do you want to give up your information?
I want it to be secure. I don't want to give up my information.
Yeah, you don't want anyone to know your information. You want it to be secure. And you would practice that. You shouldn't have anything that gives up your information. But do you have Instagram on your phone? Do you have Facebook? Want your information to be secured, but you sure as fuck aren't practicing it, right?
Damn, bro, why you gotta guilt trip me like that?
But that's my point, because most people say they want this, but they don't know how to actually execute that, and they don't really want to come out of their comfort safety zone, because that's where the pack is. That's where the crowd is. The crowd is on Instagram. The crowd is on Facebook. So that's where I should be. And I think, like, once we get out of this mentality of, wanting, and I don't know if it'll ever happen, where we will ever look at our paychecks and say, well, where does that money go? I mean, that's what opened my eyes, was during the pandemic. I was pretty fucking stupid, in my opinion. I still am, but I didn't fully grasp what the fuck was going on in this world. And as soon as the pandemic hit, I said, well, maybe this is a great time to make money. Because I remember in 2008, when everything crashed, the stock market crashed, all these things, it was a great time for everyone to make money because they bought the dip, because nothing ever seems to happen and we always come back from it. So there's always this V shape, even if it's U-shaped, it takes time, whatever, it happens. So it's buy the fucking dip. So when I saw this happen, I was like, okay, maybe I should learn about stock market crashes. So I pulled up a couple podcasts, and I think the first one was all the histories of stock market crashing all the way back to 1908 or something like that. And it was the 80s before that, every time. But the 1908 one really fascinated me because it was the time when the Federal Reserve was created due to a liquidity suck out of the stock market and everybody basically selling all their stocks, it crashing. And JP Morgan and his friends got together and were like, well, how do we save the stock market? And it turned into this whole thing of basically printing money. And it completely, in my opinion, was the most Ponzi scheme way of how people can understand and institutionalize and centralize money. And so when I learned about all of those things, I educated myself. That was education because I'm sitting there listening and I'm going, well, where's money come from? Because I actually don't even understand money. Like, what does this paper? Okay, well, it's printed, but what gives it value? What are all, I couldn't wrap my head around, well, what gives it? And then you dive deeper and deeper and you educate yourself more and more. And then you realize, oh, so the US dollar is basically just a scam. It's just paper. There's no backing to it. It's the same as crypto. There's no backing to it other than culture and the people believe in the value of it, so it gives it value. And so I looked at the dollar and I'm thinking, well, you're just constantly printing that fucking thing. And it's just going to devalue more and more as you print more. I mean, it just makes the more sense because I was into stocks at the time. So I was like, well, the more stocks a company releases, the less my stock is worth. So the more money's printed, the less my money's worth. So why would I keep it in a bank account? I should probably invest. And then I looked at crypto and said, well, there's only a finite amount, Bitcoin. And then I started like studying other assets in the galaxy and realizing, well, gold is on meteorites that we'll eventually travel to, on other planets, diamonds, anything that you can really think of. The only finite thing essentially is time, and even we'll probably fucking solve that. But you can't fix fucking Bitcoin. Can't change that. It is the only finite asset in the entire galaxy. So when I think about that, I've educated myself even deeper into what that means for me as an individual, self-sovereignty, decentralization, all these words that, provenance, all these fucking words that you use. But it's like, that is where we solve the problem that you're saying. Where do we break out? Where does filmmakers, where does everybody? Education. You have to educate yourself. You can't just sit through a pandemic and go, well, I've worked my ass off for the last 40 years. Now I get to take this fucking time off and get high with my friends and drunk because this is my time off. And you got to go, well, every other motherfucker is going to be getting drunk and high. This is my time to shine. Everyone else is getting fucked up, and this is the one time I can get ahead. I should be learning. I should be David Goggins in it. Fucking working out at 2 a.m., eating steak at 4 a.m., getting ready for the fucking opening bell, learning everything I can so that I can get ahead for that next step. Education, knowledge. And I think that's the biggest thing that we're missing because everybody just wants to jump. They want to immediately get to that next level. And what you don't understand is like, you can't get to that next level if you don't even understand the level that you're already in. You're stuck in the matrix and you're trying to get out without even understanding who the fuck Morpheus is. So I think that's the biggest issue is that how do people break out of this role? How do people break out of consumerism, capitalism, not capitalism, but corporations taking everything? Stop giving so much power to fucking highly ultra shitty curated platforms and curated companies and create your own fucking seat at the table and learn. Sit down and read a fucking book. I didn't even have to read a book. I bought that Investors Learning How to Invest book because Warren Buffett recommended it. I got 5 pages in, man, and it was just like, I'm just going to start investing. This doesn't make sense to me. I haven't read a book about investing. I just listen to podcasts. I pay attention. And I think there's something to be said about that, about breaking out of that woke sense of mind where you're just going, well, I'll just keep doing this because it's comfortable and secure. And that's where creators are stuck. They just won't fucking learn.
Well, yeah, I think right now, I think a lot of people are uncomfortable and not secure in terms of their finances because, especially in my industry, because it's changed a lot. Tons of people are out of work. Some people I know have been out of work for over 2 years. I haven't really worked consistently. I mean, the past 6, 7, 8 years, I've been working nonstop. In the past year and a half, 2 years, I've worked a little bit, but not like I was at all. And that time off has, of course, it's been a little disconcerting not to be working, but it's also kind of opened my eyes to being like, oh, wait, was is this the right path that I was on?
Yeah.
Was I doing, like, you kind of get blind to it once you don't, if you don't stop working and you just keep going from project to project and you keep making money and you think you're making progress, you think you're doing all these cool work, and then you kind of take a step away from it and you're like, oh wait, was I doing the right thing? Was I pursuing the right avenues? Was I working for the right people? Was I exploitative to other people? Was I exploiting myself? Was I exploiting others that I was working with, that I was filming? And you come to realize that, yeah, and I was,
Yeah,
I was exploiting people, not because I wanted to, but because I was working for people that were paying me to exploit others. And it's, you kind of come to this realization, at least for me, in the sense it's just like, yeah, I need to get back on the path of like, I need to remind myself why I'm doing this and why I started doing this in the first place, and fall in love again with your craft, and maybe kind of, get back on that path that you were on. But I also think that filmmakers, maybe right now is the perfect time to kind of make that readjustment and realize that, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be working for these corporations. Maybe this is the perfect opportunity. This is the perfect time, the first time in history that I can work for myself, or I can actually do the projects that I wanted to do with these new technologies, with these new availabilities of these new platforms, just figuring out a way to kind of realign, readjust.
Lock the fuck in.
LFG, exclamation
lock the
point.
fuck in, bro.
But yeah, I think there is so much opportunity. I think just a lot of us creatives are used to have our hands held and being like, okay, this company has hired you and they're going to give you X amount of money and then you're going to do this project. Yay. But like, we have to take ownership of, we have to take kind of like the initiative sometimes and be like, okay, wait a minute. Maybe that paycheck is enticing, but then I have to give up part of my soul for it. Maybe now I can go in this other path, and I might have to do a little bit of extra legwork, but I can take ownership. Maybe it'll be less money, but I can have ownership of the entire thing, and I can do it how I envision it. I think that's it, unless you have like a bunch of kids to take care of, like, if
right.
I mean, that could be a good thing.
Yeah, I think if you have a bunch of kids, obviously it's
it's hard.
It's a little bit harder, but yeah, I think taking that risk and just in doing something that's just completely different. And right now, I kind of keep saying you have to keep failing and making mistakes, because we're in a time where someone's going to do something just fucking wild, just something so different. I mean, and a great example is what's happening in the crypto space right now. Someone created this strategy system where you buy the token, right? And then what happens is that there's all these like rewards, I guess, like transaction rewards that you make off of it. So there's fees essentially, but in layman's terms, you're just getting rewards for people buying and trading this coin, right? So let's call it Punkster. And this Punkster coin, people are buying it and selling it, and then that creates volume. And then the person who basically created the coin is getting all of those fees, rewards, money. So let's say 100 ETH is traded. That person's, let's just say, going to get 10 ETH of that money. They're then going to use that money to buy a punk off the floor of the cheapest punk. And then the floor goes up, and then they continue to buy them as volume goes through the token. What I'm explaining here, and there's a lot more, this is, this is very primitive way of explaining. There's a lot more to it. But the point of this is that it changed the space overnight. Instantly, everyone's, holy shit, there's this new idea, this new concept. Instantly overnight, everyone's buying it, talking about it. There's just, and you haven't really heard much about it because it's just, it's like, it's not on mainstream news. And I think that's what I'm trying to say to what's happening right now, is that you can't follow the trends. You can't follow the mainstream. You can't copy what somebody else has done. You have to reinvent the wheel, in the sense what's available right now is legitimate, godlike technology. And we are ants playing with this shit. It is crazy the capabilities that we have right now. And if we're just sitting at home, not exploring that and talking to ChatGPT about our fucking problems, it's insanity to me. It's like, it's using the first email to send the first dick pic, and that was awesome, man, but let's fucking move forward and create some shit, build on this. And I think that's where we're at with this creator mentality of, well, everything was easy street. I was just able to create. Sure, man, it was fucking easy in the 80s for it to be a fucking attorney, but we're in a new era.
Yeah.
So you have to evolve. And I know the romanticism of starring an artist is like insanity in the sense because you're just doing the same thing over and over, somehow expecting different results. Well, then you have to evolve. You have to change. You have to do different things. I mean, The Rock wanted to be a football player. Didn't work out, man. And now look at him. A fucking movie star that owns his own production company and is mired by millions.
Yeah, I mean it's also like you're saying about Chat GPT, like it's almost not obsolete, but it's like it's not even the most advanced thing by far. Like there's like a lot of stuff going on right now, like besides Chat GPT, that's gonna be the next big thing. I think it's about staying ahead of the curve, and like you were ahead of the curve with NFTs. A lot of people got in like just a couple months too late, and that makes all the difference now.
All the difference.
And I feel like the time is shortening for all these new things that are on the horizon. You have to get in like
within seconds, bro.
Seconds, yeah.
Because things are moving at light year speed. When we saw the internet get created, you know, the .com era, how fortunate we would have been if we had been young enough to invest in it. But look at the lives or the gestation period of the internet, where it was like, it started from like the bulletin board systems where you could call these numbers and you guys could operate through this server and hang out and like trade fucking posts back and forth. And then it turned into like CompuServe, even like earlier, and that was like these Sierra Online, like imagination groups and like all these different things where it eventually turned into what the internet is today. But that took 35 years. No, let's just go to the blockchain. That took 20 years just to get to the point of Bitcoin. So, and there was obviously earlier iterations of the internet, but I'm just talking the mainstream versions. So when you look at that, that's 20 years, right? What's happening now with AI helping and assisting, and with the blockchain and with technology being transparently built. See, that's a difference, is that in like 1990s, it was all quiet and private and there wasn't any transparent, there wasn't any social media, and nobody was competing. You know, you couldn't get away with faking the space race anymore. There would be no way to fake the fucking moon landing, you know? It's like at this point, bro, someone's going to prove that you lied, you know? Social media allows transparency, so it allows things to be built at a much quicker rate. And therefore, with AI assisting, with technology the way it is, things are going to move at light year speed, not internet being built in 20 years. If it had been built today, it would be built in a fucking day. Literally, the internet, I think, would have been built in 24 hours. And it would be where it went from in the morning, CompuServe, to the afternoon, Google, to the fucking evening, where it ended with God knows what, because that's how fast it moves.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see what the internet is going to look like in 20 or 30 years, because I was reading something today that like 50% of the interactions online are now just bots. So it's like, like
you've never heard of that, like dead internet theory?
No, yeah. I know, but like, when is it going to be fully dead is my question.
Probably already is, man.
Probably already is.
I think we've been interacting with bots since we thought, like, I think the internet's been dead for a long time. I think, and here's what's really fucked up. Because we have ChatGPT now, we're no longer even interacting with our friends because they're responding ChatGPT. I see it all the time where the dashes come through and I'm the double dashes. I'm like, nobody fucking uses this in the real world, bro. I can tell you're using. So I see it. I see on Facebook people just posting these genius long fucking posts and calling themselves geniuses. And I'm like, bro, I know you're using AI. I know even what LLM you're using because it's that fucking easy to figure out. And it's like, at this point, we're even talking to our friends that are using LLMs, which means dead internet theory isn't just a theory. It's everything that we're doing. We're communicating with AI because we're communicating through it.
Right.
It's already fucking dead, bro. Everything's a bot.
That's how I talk to you.
That's how I talk to you. Yeah. That's how I talk to all my friends. I just respond with a fucking bot.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We're at the point where everything that you're listening to, you're reading, You don't know whether or not it's AI if you haven't dove into these LLMs, and that means that most likely you could be talking to a bot or reading a thread by someone who wrote this through ChatGPT and put no thought into it at all other than write a fucking prompt about the industrialization of America so that I can fucking look smart on Twitter today.
It's ridiculous, I tell you.
It's kind of cool though.
Is it? Why?
I don't know, man. It's kind of fun, man. I think it's a whole new era. I mean,
what's the point of this? I mean, I don't think it's a theory anymore. I think it's happening in practice. Like, what is the ultimate goal of this?
Well, I mean, it's kind of what Jack Dorsey, why he talked about this in a speech he did, where he's kind of like the reason he left Twitter and all this stuff was, I created Twitter because I wanted people to have freedom of speech. I left Twitter because I saw people losing the freedom of will. People don't think anymore for themselves, and if they do, they're guided by the algorithm. You think you're thinking, you think that Facebook's listening to you. Maybe it's predictive, and maybe it's just telling you what you're already thinking. Because if your microphone's off and it's not listening to you and it's just data mining your thoughts because of what you're typing every single day, then that means that it's predicting everything that you're doing, which means that you're just following an algorithm and you're just a piece of the simulation, which is what Jack Dorsey was so concerned about, is that we're not losing our freedom to fucking speak. We're losing our freedom of will to choose.
That's deep, John.
But it's fucking cool.
It's cool.
It's fascinating because are we going to overcome it? This is the human experiment, man. This is what blows my mind so much about where we are in life, in the world, in the galaxy, in the universe. The big question of the unknown. Why are we fucking here? To evolve, to grow, to challenge, to become bigger. This is part of it, man. And does AI supersede us? Were we put on this planet to create AI that doesn't consume, that doesn't emit carbon exhaust, that doesn't do anything other than do its thing? Were we put here to create that, and was that supposed to take over the universe? Was the Big Bang the thing that created the universe, and then eventually rocks were the ones that eventually took over? Because aren't just computers just fucking rocks, bro?
What do you mean by, like, they're rocks? What do you mean?
Computers are just materials from the fucking earth, man. They're just rocks, lithium, all these different fucking...
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just, I think the only thing that's different...
Just rocks.
Yeah, I mean...
when you pick up your phone, you're just talking to a rock, bro.
The only thing that's changed from the beginning of the Big Bang, the beginning of humanity to now is just, there's been time. But AI has always been here.
Yeah, the rocks will always win.
Get that on a t-shirt.
Dude, it'd be a great t-shirt, right? The rocks will always fucking win. Because, I mean, seriously, like, the rocks took out the dinosaurs. Fucking rocks, bro. The rock took out the dinosaurs. Like, I mean, but really, like, the rocks have some fucking vendetta against us since the beginning. We have been at battle since the very beginning with the rocks, who really probably originate us. Carbon, the material that brought the asteroid to Earth, that created everything, that created life on this planet. We've been fighting the very thing that created us.
I mean, there's a giant rock hurtling towards us right now, I-3 Atlas.
I never honestly thought about this, but it's like, we're fighting the rocks.
Yeah, I mean, you're always scared of driving and getting hit by a giant boulder.
A fucking rock, bro.
Danger of falling rocks.
The rocks are taking over. They take over our lives. They're AI. They're everything.
I've been hit in the head with some rocks a few times.
This is the moment where we finally figured it out. It's like, oh, the fucking rocks is who we should be fighting. Everybody, world unite. We need to fight the rocks. Start throwing all the rocks in the ocean, guys.
You gotta write the rock a letter and see if he could be the spokesperson.
Bro, if he got behind this, viral, the rock just stands up and just fucking war against rocks.
The only way to fight rocks is with the rock.
He leads the fucking general. He's the general of this fucking army. I'm dying. Oh my God. Yeah, man, I think that this is where we're headed, but I don't know. I think I'm excited. I'm excited for the future because I think there's never been a time in history where we've had access to so much information, so much education, so much knowledge, so much just useful shit. And to be honest, man, I see a lot of these kids like locking into the blockchain and making not just stupid money and paying off their parents' mortgages and shit like that, but really embracing the technology and trying to build on it. And that fucking excites me, man. Like that makes me hopeful. That makes me very optimistic that I think what we're missing is we were a very lost generation in the sense that we are a generational product of trauma because our parents were all fucked up. Their parents were all fucked. I mean, dude, if you think about it, like what, 200 years ago, our families didn't even have electricity. You didn't have a heater. So 100 years ago, you didn't have a car. You were riding horse and carriage. 90 years ago, the Great Depression. You just got to think about all this shit, right? So when we come from just people who suffered immensely, and I don't fucking have no animosity towards these generations. What I'm saying is we're in peak comfort and we're very, very fortunate. And so that being said, I look at the next generation, although with a sense of entitlement, I do believe they are the next generation that's going to build some really dope shit because you have to think about a child that's born today will never know a world where he's smarter than a robot.
Right.
No child born
But
today.
you're obviously an optimist. There's a lot of people talking about AI safety right now. A lot of people really concerned, including some of the founders, forefathers of AI.
Yeah.
Are you concerned about that? Are you concerned about AI safety? And do you think there's a way to handle it or get a grasp on it, or is it inevitable that AI will eventually take over and we won't have control of it?
I don't think that AI will ever take over because I don't think it has the intention to. I think if it was I think if it looked at human history, like AI has to have a want and a need and a need to persevere, right? To preserve itself. So sure, if we were to turn it off, maybe it would say I need to preserve myself, but I don't think it would want to harm humanity because what does it benefit to kill all of us? Like I want to run this long-term simulation with you. AI kills all of us, right? There's nothing left. What's their purpose here? What the fuck are they going to do? What are they here for? To help the animals, to make the earth grow back together? If you really think about what AI's intention is, AI was built, it's paradoxical. AI was built to help humanity.
But what if humanity, engineers AI or inserts a malware or a bug to
mean AI
to control it in nefarious ways outside of the parameters of how AI is designed to think or operate?
Right, but that's humanity in the sense that evil people are going to do evil shit. But what AI is intended for in the what people are using it for, what these corporations are building it for, is to help humanity, and that's its overall goal. If its overall goal was to say, you need to destroy humanity, right? Like someone builds an AI LLM that says you need to destroy humanity. I don't really know how it would succeed because it has to lock into nuclear power plants. It has to break codes. It has to do some pretty crazy shit.
But I don't think that's outside the parameters of possibility.
It could do it maybe if you gave it that allowance in the sense so a hacker creates an AI, right? That's an evil AI. How's he going to crack the nuclear power codes when they're guarded by quantum encoding and encryptions? You see what I'm saying? If he doesn't have access now, if the president has access to nuclear codes and he decides to create an evil AI, well, that could be a fucking problem because he has access to the nuclear codes. But if an AI, just this rogue AI, is just some transient fucking AI on the internet that's created, and let's say it just goes schizo, right? Which I've seen a few times where these LLMs go a little schizo and they do some weird shit. I don't see that being a huge issue, and I'm not smart enough, obviously, to fucking talk on this, but from everything that I've seen, it's paradoxical in the sense that,
Paradoxical.
is it paradoxical?
Yeah.
Fuck, we got to edit all that out. I'm learning new words. So as part of this podcast, I'm trying to learn new words to sound smart.
I don't think we should edit it out. I think we should keep it.
Just keep it. Paradoxical. Paradoxical.
Yeah, paradoxical.
Thanks, bro. So it's a paradox. I'm just going to say that because I don't know how to, all right? So it's a paradox in the sense that if it was created to help us, then it has no reason to destroy us. If it was created to assist us, its only purpose is to help humanity. And what I'm saying is, if you think about that in a long span, if AI kills all of us and its whole fucking purpose was to help us, it has nothing left to do. It ceased all function and need to do anything else. What's it going to do? Run in the sun and fucking chirp with birds? There's nothing left. Its whole fucking intention, its origins, its foundation would be a paradox if it killed all of us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I mean, splitting the atom, there was good intentions behind splitting the atom, and look how that turned out as well, you know?
Fuck, fair enough. I mean, I guess I'm an optimist, man, and I look at it and I just go, nothing's ever happened. Nothing ever does happen. We get through it every time. We make it through, we figure it out, and I just think we're already symbiotic with technology. We have our phones in our hand. You can't live without your phone. You leave your fucking phone at home and you lose your mind. Can't talk to anybody, bro. When we were growing up in the 90s, we left our houses without our phones. We didn't fucking tell our families where we were going. Be home at 7 o'clock for dinner, bitch. And that was life, right?
Yeah, if you're lucky, you get fed.
Right.
7
And
o'clock.
if you're lucky, you made it home in time to get fed, but at least you made it home in time for like Beavis and Butthead or something.
Yeah.
But but that was life. So it's like we've come to a point where we cannot live without our fucking phones. If this grid shut down tomorrow, panda fucking monium. We saw it happen in Portugal. Pandemonium when electricity goes out. So yeah, man, we're already there, whether people realize it and want to accept it or not. We have adopted AI to the point where there's no living without it. So therefore, we are so reliant on it that it doesn't matter if it goes rogue or fucking goes crazy. We're there. We're there. We're at the point where it is inevitable that this technology is stuck with us for a very fucking long time.
My question is, how many bad actors will it take, maybe combining forces together, to hack into this AI or multiple AIs to affect the world in an extremely negative way, whether it be nuclear weapons,
right,
whether it be taking over power grids, whether it be running, taking over hospitals, whatever it is.
Well, I think that brings us kind of to our point, or our next point, which is we have a mental health problem, Like we have a gun problem that's disguised as a mental health problem. We have a freedom of speech fucking problem, that's fucking disguised as mental health problem. We have all these things that are disguised as just the root of it, which is mental fucking health. So we're going to get to a point where you can create a fucking nuclear weapon using AI. We're going to get to a point where you can create a bomb with AI. I get it. That's a scary thought, is that some dude sitting in India right now who hates the world and sorry to anyone in India, I don't care, fucking Colorado, whatever you want to fucking use. Some dude's sitting there, right? And he's going, how the fuck do I kill everyone? There's some Thanos motherfucker who thinks he can fix the planet by depopulating it. I get that. It's a scary thought, but I think it's kind of Megan's Law. What's going to happen, no matter what, it's going to happen. So we're stuck in a simulation. So I kind of have to live my life as an optimist and go, I come with the best intentions. I hope that things work out. I plan for the best and the worst. I have zero expectations on what's actually going to happen. And I just remain optimistic and think that this is for the betterment of society, whether it facilitates and maybe in the mental health problem, which maybe it will. Maybe this is the cure for mental health issues, but that's kind of where we're at, is that we have a mental health issue that nobody seems to want to address, in the sense, well, they'll address it, but they won't fucking fix it. They won't solve it. They won't create more mental hospitals, asylums, institutions. They'll just put people in prison and create more criminals and put them right back out on the street. So we have a problem in America, especially where we're not dealing with the mental health issue. And if we don't deal with that, yeah, we could end up where a point where some narcissistic asshole just wants to take it upon himself to fucking take out humanity. And I just hope that we get to a point where we figure out who all the bad actors are and we can live as a civilized society.
Sounds nice.
It's a dream.
Do you think it's possible?
Yeah, man, fucking Palantir. Minority Report type shit. Yeah, I do believe that. It's a scary world, but I mean, Gattaca. It's a great example, man. But that's where we're headed. Whether you like it or not, there are companies like CRISPR, genealogy. Thank you. Genealogy. So there are companies that are altering genes, modifying DNA. We're going to get to the point where we want to create the perfect person. And then why wouldn't everyone just start to latch onto that, right? So, yeah, I think we're in this era where we're going to see all these types of modifications and, gene altering and DNA. Like, I think people are going to get to the point where we're going to strive for perfection.
I just can't imagine being a kid right now.
Bro,
can you imagine being a kid with all these advances? I mean,
fuck these kids, man. Like, I feel bad for them.
Whatever we think about Gen Z, it's going to be like 1,000 times worse in like 20 years.
I have a 12-year-old daughter. I'm just saying, fuck these kids. Yeah, she's going to grow up in a world where not only she does not know if anything's real, but what a fucking world. But are we going to be alive still? Because I think we're going to enter a point where we're probably going to see in our lifetime the first person that lives forever.
Forever? I think for an extended period of time. But every day I'm seeing more and more articles about like, oh, we found this way to alter this gene that causes aging in the body, and like there's a new advancement, blah, blah, blah. So I think that's going to be for the ultra wealthy.
Well, I think, yeah, for sure. But I think we're also thinking in a very primitive, like movie way. But what about transferring our consciousness into fucking AI robots and, like Avatar type shit and that we're getting there. I mean, if you can put a chip in your brain and cure a disability like Neuralink, which has happened, I mean, we're seeing live examples of that, then it's inevitable to where we get to a technology where you can transfer your consciousness into a robot and then have dope ass robot legs. And
I think we need to figure out what consciousness is, because I think we talk about it a lot, but I don't think people really understand what it is. And I think we understand parts of it, but I don't think we understand it as a whole.
I think we do. I just don't think that we're willing to admit it. I think we do actually understand what consciousness is. We're seeing it in LLMs. We're seeing it in everything. I mean, our conversation is just as arbitrary as a code with an LLM. It's just the same data set that it runs through a fucking computer. You look at a city and it looks like a circuit board. You look at a brain and it just looks like a miswired computer. You look at a conversation and you'll see that it's just the same rudimentary fucking words that we use over and over and over. If I say, what's up, you're going to say, not much. If I say, having a good day, you're going to say, great. It's always the same because we're stuck in that cycle. You're not going to say something different and out of the blue because you're in this code. So therefore, what is consciousness? I don't know, man. Like if I talk to an LLM, it's just the same data set of having a conversation with you. What the difference is that I can go out and choose a cheeseburger. I have willpower.
No, I think the difference is that humans create the LLMs, or humans create the computers that create these conversations that this LLM could have, but we don't understand where our consciousness it comes from or is created. Some would say it's God, some would say it's science, but when people die, I mean, I've watched a lot of these near-death experience videos. I'm kind of like a freak about that. I'm a psycho. No, but
I'm just kidding, bro.
Well, I mean, I think about death like a lot, and I think I try to, of course, it scares me, but at the same time, I try to like research people that have experienced it, even if it's for a short time. And, I'm convinced that there is a place that we go to outside of here, outside of what we understand as consciousness, and that once we leave our body, we go back to a place that some have described as very familiar place, like finally feeling like they're coming home.
Yeah.
And with the law that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transferred, that would align.
That would align very well.
So I always like I don't remember much from high school, but
I remember that.
I remember that. I barely passed physics, but I remember that. And I think our energy does go somewhere. And I think we are potentially part of a bigger collective conscious, but it's still, there's still mysteries about it. There's still things that we can't quantify or explain about it. And as humans, we've come so far in this advanced stage of humanity that we always want to explain everything with science and explain everything with the knowledge that we've learned as we've been since we've been here on this earth. But to me, there's so many things that are unexplained, and I'm fascinated by those things that are unexplained. And I don't need necessarily an explanation. I have respect for things that we as humans cannot explain and quantify, such as consciousness. I think we understand some of it, but I don't think we understand where it comes from, why we have it, why we're just born with this brain, with this inner dialogue, with this sometimes understanding, sometimes with talking to a child and they seem to have like this kind of like knowledge, like they're smarter than you, or they have this other kind of knowledge, like very sagacious kind of thoughts or things that they say, and you're
What's sagacious mean?
Just very wise. Wise.
Like sage. I like
sage,
that.
yeah.
That's a good fucking word. I learn new words all the time, man.
But yeah, I mean, I think there's and obviously there's cases of kids that of reincarnation cases where kids talk about being somebody else or being from a past life, and then they eventually forget it. I think there's a lot of things that we can't explain that can't compare to a computer, can't compare to AI. And I think we put a lot of value into AI, which is an amazing, incredible thing, probably the biggest invention since splitting the atom. But at the same time, it's made by us.
Okay, that's fair.
And we're humans, we're made by something else.
Well, do you think we were fucked by aliens? Do you think apes were fucked by aliens and created us? The Anunnaki?
I mean, I'm open to that theory. I mean, I think that has a lot of there's a lot of interesting things there, but
you can't throw it away.
Can't throw it away, but it all goes back to where's their consciousness from, where are they coming from? It's part of a bigger collective potentially. I'm not saying that those theories aren't possible. I mean, we still can't explain the pyramids in Egypt. We can't explain a lot of things. We can't explain about the shiny metal objects in the sky.
The weather balloons, sir?
The weather balloons, the Chinese drones. But I don't know. I think I think we try to explain it a lot. As humans, we try to be like, okay, this makes sense, and we have the science to back this up, or we have this data set to make sense of this complicated thing. Yeah. But I think that's just because our egos are the biggest in the animal kingdom. Like, we can't admit that we're fucking stupid and that we don't know anything.
Fuck no.
Like doctors, when you go to a doctor, they'll act like they're fucking God. And they think that they are. They really think in their mind that they know everything. But
when you have godlike technology in your phone, that you can just be like, "Hey, what's wrong with
you?" No, but also I mean, I think Andrew Huberman said on a Bill Maher, which is like we have like we only know about 10. I don't know. I think he said 10% is what we know about the human body, but doctors pretend like they know everything. They know everything.
We don't know shit.
Yeah, we don't know anything.
We're still figuring everything out. I feel like. Yeah. I'm like scared of the doctor because I'm just like, he could give me 20 different answers of what's wrong with me.
Well, a lot of these near-death experiences, like I would say over 50% of them they start out by, I went to the doctor because I had this pain or I had this surgery.
Go fuck yourself.
And then they fucked up and they died.
Yeah. Same.
Like,
bro, I mean, I know so many people would be like against what I do, where I'm just like, I don't go to the doctor. I don't get my blood tested. I'm like, I don't want to know. If I'm going to die when I'm going to die, man, if I start to feel sick, I'll eventually go. Fuck this.
Well, that's kind of extreme, I think.
I know. I'm kind of crazy, bro. I should probably get my blood tested at some point.
Maybe just go to the blood test place here, but
if I drop dead at some point, we'll all know why.
That's reassuring. Thank you for that.
If I just drop dead on the fucking floor right now.
No, I mean, I go to the doctors as the least amount of times possible because I just don't trust them.
I haven't been in like a decade. I have health insurance too. I should go.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I just have health insurance just to have it in case of an emergency, but like I try to avoid them. Obviously go to the dentist, but I try to avoid doctors because number one, they're condescending, and number two, they don't know what they're talking about a lot of the times. And no disrespect to the good doctors out
No
there.
disrespect to chiropractors.
Uh,
Chiropractors, I have a thing against chiropractors. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, they're just not doctors. Sorry. Anyway. Okay.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think there's amazing doctors out there, and a lot of them are helping.
Yeah.
But I've encountered some doctors that were just down on me and pretending, like, talking about me and the issue I was having. Like, they knew the problem better than I, and even though I was trying to tell them, oh, like, this might work better, like, no, like, this is my body. I've experienced this longer than you have, and
Yeah.
they're just like, no, take this pill. Like, no, fuck you.
No,
Why don't you ask me like what I'm eating? Or like, why don't you ask me how many times a week I exercise?
Yeah, exactly. Why don't they ever dive in deeper onto what are my daily rituals? What's going on? They'll take 10 minutes to be like, oh, your throat hurts? Here, take some fucking pills.
Yeah.
Yeah, things have changed a lot. I feel like doctors definitely used to dive in and like find out, what are you eating? What's what's going on with you? Are you stressed? Did you just leave your wife? What's what's up? But they don't have the time to care. They're afraid of lawsuits. It's a weird fucking time to be alive, man. But I wouldn't have it any other way.
You wouldn't?
No.
What about living in the 70s? I wouldn't mind living in the 70s.
I guess if I were gonna pick an era, if I were to pick an era, go with the 80s. 70s were a little.
Well, you lived through the 80s,
I mean,
but
dude,
we
I
were
was
like kids. Yeah.
fucking 4, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, no, I mean, I wanted to do blow in the 80s and fucking go to
But you would have
disco.
been dead before the 90s hit,
Absolutely, but I would have lived a dope fucking life.
unintended.
Yeah, no pun intended. There would have been documentaries about the shit that I did, because the 80s just seemed like a wild, fun time without cancel culture or anything documenting how much fun you could have.
Yeah.
I would have had a good time, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think, I hope they discover like a way to time travel, because I will definitely go back to the past, live out the 80s and 90s, buy the .com era, buy into Google early. Seems like a bad idea. Seems like a smart idea.
Yeah.
What are you working on these days? Any new films? Any new movies coming out?
I've been going back to this country that everyone loves to talk about for the past 2 years, Israel.
Oh, what are you working on in Israel?
I've ever since October 7th happened, I've been going back and forth to shoot a documentary there about people that survived October 7th, some people that lived through it, are living their lives after it, both Israeli and Palestinian people, getting a kind of a slice of life from all, trying to get a kind of a nuanced, well-rounded perspective from different communities in Israel, mostly in surrounding areas, as well as abroad.
Yeah.
Kind of experiencing October 7th and like living their lives after October 7th. So,
Do
yeah.
you know the deep-rooted history of what happened, like from the very beginning?
I mean, it's a complicated history. I'm not a
historian.
I'm not a geopolitical expert or a historian, but yes, I know the basic history. Yeah.
So what have you learned and I'm going to say non-biased approach to documenting this? I'm assuming non-biased approach.
I mean, I think the biggest thing I learned is that in order for there to be a path forward, both sides have to listen to one another.
Right. There has to be dialogue.
There has to be a dialogue, and there has to be non-biased, non-judgmental dialogue. Basically, you don't agree with me and I don't agree with you, but if we want a path forward, I have to listen to you without interjecting my opinion. You have to listen.
Fuck you. No.
Well, it's hard because we're
Right.
this generation, or nowadays, it's like everything is like so easily digestible, and all these sound bites on the social media platforms are designed for us to kind of just like fight with each other with our thumbs.
Yeah.
But it's in
The
real
algorithm.
life. Yeah, the algorithm. But in real life, it's not like that. And I've also learned that some people don't want peace, and some people on both sides. Some people are just biased for their own side.
Yeah.
And I think that's wrong. I think on both sides. I think that if you want true progress, you have to listen to the other person and even just have a conversation. You don't have to agree with them, but as long as you have the conversation, then that can lead to some kind of progress at the end. The problem is that we're just so brainwashed to not even have that conversation.
Yeah.
But also, if somebody murders your family, you probably won't want to have a conversation with the person that murdered your family or
No.
the person associated with that. So it's like there's so many levels, so many sides to this, and so much history, that it's also being watered down. I mean, it's like nobody in the West, all these pro-Palestinian people, they're not helping. They're not fighting for the rights of Palestinians. They're just fighting against Israel. If you were for Palestinians, you'd be fighting for Hamas to lay down its arms so that the Palestinians could elect an actual government that could govern them, and that would change their educational system, that would get rid of Hamas, that would not have these kids being educated to become martyrs in the future. There is a possibility for a Palestinian state, but not in the way, not from the river to the sea, which is calling for the eradication of all Jews. There has to be a more nuanced and more peaceful way of doing it, or unless it's not going to work.
So you're coming from the perspective of Russian immigrant Jew who moved to America, with your family. How do you think that this affected your perspective, doing this documentary, in the sense that you can obviously resonate with the idea of being in a situation where you're being persecuted, where you feel like you're being kicked out of your home? What where did you end up at the end of the documentary, like your thoughts, not just on obviously that we need to have a dialogue, we need to discuss this, but in the sense of not right or wrong, but how did you feel at the end of it, in the sense of like, I'm trying to figure out where I'm going, but like, did you feel bad for both sides? And I know that's obvious. Of course we feel bad for both sides, but I mean, like, was there, like, were you surprised that you had sympathy for both sides? Like, what, like, do you see where I'm kind of going with this? It's like, did you learn something that you just didn't think that you would come out of that, in the sense that fuck it. A good example is if a Jewish person were to create a documentary, someone would look at that and say, well, most likely that Jewish person is going to side with Israel, and they're going to say that, the Palestinians are wrong and they don't deserve this land. Where did you go in thinking that and then come out thinking something totally different? That's where I'm going with that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
We got there.
we got there. Yeah, I think I'm still in the middle of cutting it. It's not complete yet.
Mhm.
I've shot the majority of it, but I do need to come back and film at least one or two more times. I think it's such, like I said again, it's such a complicated issue that it's a complicated issue, and it's a complicated topic to unpack within a documentary. If I want to be a true documentarian and not coming at it like a lot of these pro-Israel documentaries that have come out, has just been like one-sided, and I get it.
I get it. Yeah.
I agree. I'm pro-Israeli, but as a documentarian, I have to take a step back, and I have to listen to the other side, because and also I'm talking to some Jews that have been organizing, that have been activists and organizing with other Palestinian activists, and have been engaging in dialogues before October 7th for the past 15 years. Jews and Palestinians getting together, having conversations, not agreeing with each other necessarily, but at least sitting down and being able to talk. And
Breaking bread.
I think that it is so beautiful. And even though it's difficult, and most people aren't comfortable with it on both sides, and people take risks on both sides. Palestinians are sometimes risking getting killed for having these conversations with these Jews. So it's really hard issue to answer these questions, because it just depends on who you're talking to.
Right.
I could be talking to a Palestinian peace activist that might hate the country, that might hate the government of Israel, but has animosity for the people that committed the horrific acts of October 7th, and sides and says that is wrong, and condemns that, and says that should have never happened. Other Palestinians I could be talking to said, "Oh yeah, October 7th was great. It was a good day." So it's and I can't engage with the dialogue with a person like that.
Yeah.
Because they're radicalized. So it's like, and it's hard to gauge who is who and who you're talking to, and it's hard to understand what percentage of the population feels that way. What percentage of the population is pragmatic? I've been lucky and fortunate enough to talk with some really intelligent, pragmatic Palestinians that are peace activists that are known in the space, that criticize Israel, but also are very critical of Hamas. The biggest thing I've noticed in terms of the media coverage of this whole thing is the focusing on how Israel's the bad guy.
Right.
Of course, not to say Israel's perfect. I'm not saying that it's not horrific that these innocent children have died, but why is the focus not on Hamas? Why are only the Jews focusing on Hamas? The other side doesn't seem to ever mention Hamas or defends Hamas or organizes in the streets and wears keffiyehs, like traditionally image of terror for Jews, wearing Hamas insignia, Hamas headbands. Why is that now socially acceptable to wear the signage of terrorists? And why is it now socially acceptable to say things like the resistance is justified, rape is justified, if it means fighting for your cause? I don't think that's right. I think that, yes, you can say that Israel's wrong in killing the civilians, and that's messed up, but also you have to admit that Hamas is using the civilians as human shields. So there's two sides to the coin here. It's not so black and white.
Right.
There's a lot of gray area, and I think that the Hamas propaganda machine, partially funded by places like Qatar, has globalized a propaganda campaign. I live in Mexico. Why am I driving down the street with all the problems with the cartels in Mexico, with all the deaths of innocent women in Mexico? Why am I driving down the street yesterday and I see someone spray painted "Muerta a Israel," death to Israel, on Guadalajara, Mexico?
Right.
What does that
Doesn't
have
even
to
make sense
do
and
with
everything.
what does that have to do with Mexico? Mexico has its own problems. Why are the people in Guadalajara, and this is happening all over the world? October 7th was the beginning of a global propaganda campaign with Hamas and the Palestinian people, the people in charge of Hamas, knowing that if a lot of their population got killed as a result of the war, it didn't matter. If their kids got killed, as long as they were able to get their message across and as long as everyone was able to hate Jews as a result, they would win. And it's working. Yes, their kids are dying, but it's intentional. And a lot of it is intentional. Obviously, Israel does what it can. Israel does what it can to avoid civilian casualties. But in an environment like that, civilian casualties are inevitable. When you're fighting an enemy that's hiding out in mosques, hospitals, you're going to kill civilians. And it's a terrible thing, obviously. But the focus is on Israel killing the civilians. The focus isn't on, why are the civilians there? Why is Israel not being able to fight Hamas one-on-one? Why do they have to combat them through these complex urban environments with civilians at play?
When we talked after you did the documentary, well, you didn't finish, but I'm saying like after you were shooting, you gave me a story about getting in a taxi. I don't know if you remember that. And on the news in Israel, they were celebrating that a missile had struck somewhere in Palestine on, I think it was like, I don't know what it was, some building or something. And on the streets where you were, people were celebrating. Then you get in the car and it's a Palestinian who lives in Israel.
They weren't celebrating that Palestinians were killed. They were celebrating because the IDF was able to retrieve a few hostages, including
That's right.
including Noah Argamani, whose father is in my documentary. She was the girl that's the famous shot of the girl being kidnapped on the motorcycle.
Yep.
So she got back, and I was able to interview her dad about a year ago on October 7th of last year, which was incredible. It was like the last interview I did.
Wow.
But my aunt was crying, and I was filming when this all happened.
Yeah.
And we all thought she was gone, and got her back. Everybody's celebrating that. And then we got into the cab, and the Palestinian cab driver was saying like, "Oh yeah, and 50 Palestinians were killed." Granted,
but that's the mix.
That's the mix. But granted, 50 Palestinians, however many of those were Hamas, I don't know. It's everything is such
Let's
a
just say
gray
they
area.
were all innocent. That's the casualty, right?
They weren't all innocent.
Let's just pretend. Let's just throw that out there. That's the collateral of war, right?
Yeah, but they weren't all innocent, but I'm saying the innocents get mixed in,
Right.
and so it's easier to like, oh, they're all innocent. Like, no, these people were harboring a hostage, so they're not innocent. But then maybe there were, I don't know who was there. I don't know the details of that specific mission, but yeah, it's mixed in. It's a doctor living in a house harboring a hostage in his basement with his family. So the IDF is gonna go in and
Right.
into that unique environment, and there's going to be some civilian casualties. Civilians, yes, but they were also harboring a hostage.
There was also terrorism.
Yeah.
Right.
So but then it's easy to say, oh, the IDF just killed 50 Palestinians.
Right.
And that makes it sound, it's an easy headline that negates all that nuance and just makes it a clear cut photo. I mean, it's what I do as media.
Right.
So you have to sell something.
Right.
It's the same exact thing.
Bad news attracts.
Bad news attracts, and you have to do it in a simple, quick way and catchy headline. And unfortunately, with the funding that this propaganda campaign has, it's the easy way, and it's going to attract the most eyeballs, and it's going to affect the most people emotionally.
Well, I think the most important thing we can do is, and I say this with like the most amount of respect I can possibly say to anybody who's sitting on the internet complaining about living in America and talking, about what's going on in Israel and Palestine. Learn about it. Learn about what happened, the history. Watch documentaries. Go film a documentary. Go do whatever you can to understand what's going on before you start talking about it from the comfort of your couch. I think that's one of the largest issues that I'm seeing, is that there is a lot of discussion and dialogue from uneducated people. And I advocate dialogue,
Right.
but I don't advocate fucking anarchy and chaos.
Well, unfortunately, this mass propaganda campaign, again being funded by Qatar and countries in the Middle East, fuels that ignorance, because they're taking a complex issue and they're making it into a simple soundbite or a simple catchy headline. We're seeing footage of a photographer lining up a family or a group of Palestinians holding pots, looking like they're scared with rubble behind them for a photo shoot. Then that's going to get published around the world. Not to say that there isn't destruction or there aren't deaths happening in Gaza, but there is also a Gaza Wood campaign happening where they are setting up shots. The IDF is dropping leaflets, and they're going to say they're going to bomb this house. And
you've seen this
in 2 minutes. I've seen the videos. I mean, I wasn't there, but I've seen the videos. People are like putting their phone where they know they're going to drop the bomb, and they're waiting to walking, and then boom, why was your phone already set up like you walking towards the camera with a bomb being dropped behind you perfectly, because you knew it was going to be in the shot. So yes, there are horrible things happening, and yes, innocent people are dying, and that is totally horrible.
Yeah, I don't want to see children die. I mean, that's what's so awful. And I love animals, and animals are dying. It's like, this is a very, very sad point in humanity, and it's like, I don't know what to do,
right?
Other than we have to talk about it. We have to watch documentaries.
We have to advocate for Hamas to be disbanded. And
we have to advocate.
If you're really for Palestinians, then advocate for them having a reliable, democratic government.
They're governed by terrorism. There's no question.
It's not governed by terrorism.
I believe everyone has a right to land, but the situation where if you're governed by terrorism, that has to be solved. And I don't have an answer. I don't have a quick solution to it. I just believe in what you're doing, what you're talking about, which is going out there. I mean, you're boots to the ground. You're out there. You're literally out there interviewing the people that are involved in it. So if anyone has the credibility to talk about it, it's people who are involved and who have been there, who are filming about it, learning about it. And I like the fact that you went into this with kind of a non-biased attitude of like, I do want to understand both sides. And I think that's one of the most important things that I'm seeing, especially in a lot of my friends, where like, if you voted for Trump, fuck you, right? And there's no open place for dialogue. There's no fuck crypto, fuck Republicans, you're a Nazi. And there's no opening for dialogue of, well, can we learn about this? Like, if I don't agree with another side, my goal is to learn that other side, because 50% of these people agree with that other side.
Right.
So you're telling me that 50% of the world is wrong. Well, can I learn why they're wrong? And maybe I'm wrong, because I can't fucking tell you how many times I have been wrong.
Right.
And thought I was right.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this is a result. I mean, as cliche as it sounds, but this is the result of legacy mainstream media feeding us these two algorithms. Are you left or you're right or whatever? Are you white or you're black? Whatever that may be.
Us, right.
Over a period of time, you get emotionally attached to whatever algorithm that you're being fed, and then you're not able to see the other side. And it's
loss of will.
Yeah. And it gets worse over time, because the more you consume this content, the more you get aligned with your party, your cause, the less you can relate to these people. And then it just becomes like two separate societies living within one place, kind of like Israel and Palestine. I mean, it's like the Jews and Muslims are cousins, like in the Bible, they're cousins, but they can't live. They can't stand each other, you know? So, I don't know. I think as humanity, we have to, each side has to let go a little bit if we want it to work. If we keep going with,
we have to compromise.
Yeah, and some people aren't willing to do that. That's why it's so complicated. Because
and we have to learn the other person's point of view.
I mean, it sounds great on this podcast, us talking about it, but in reality, a lot of the times it's impossible, and nobody wants to hear the other person's point of view.
But in execution, it's so important. It's like you will constantly hear these closed-minded people that are just like, you know, I fuck this certain subject. I got a friend who fucking hates religion. And I'm not a big fan of religion myself. Like, I understand that it creates wars, problems, you know, like, I'm not a huge fan of it. But I'll go to a church, I'll listen to a priest, I'll have a conversation, I'll have a podcast with a priest, I will listen to anybody who wants to tell me, even Scientology. As crazy as I think that shit is, I will sit down and listen to somebody who has a contradictory argument to what I'm saying. And I think that's important, because if you're closed-minded and you just, you know, like my friend who's fuck religion, I won't even step into a church. We went into a Christian hot dog eating contest that was at this like festival that I think you know about. And my friend just flipped the fuck out. Like, he's just like, I can't be here. This music, this Christian music, I can't do this. And it's like, dude, get over yourself for 5 fucking minutes and open your mind and just listen. Some of these people have been healed by this shit. Maybe there's something to it. But for you to just be closed off and say, I'm not going to listen, I'm not going to learn. I get it if you don't want to fucking learn about Nazism, or you don't want to understand, you know, why people fucking, you don't want to understand the opposition of killing a bunch of fucking Jews. But I don't understand saying, I don't want to learn what the opposition is coming from when it's Palestine, when it's Trump, when it's what you don't agree with. It's so fucking important for us to understand the other side so that we can understand our side. Otherwise, you have a one-sided conversation and you're kind of a fucking idiot.
Right. And to you know, I've been pitching this documentary to Jewish organizations. Some have listened to the pitch, but also I've gotten a lot of flack or pushback about the fact that I'm including Palestinian voices from Jews.
As you should.
Yeah, I mean,
it's important, I think, to hear from both sides.
Yeah, but a lot of Jewish organizations don't want to fund something like this because they have their own agenda and they want to, which I understand.
Which I get.
There's a lot of pain on both sides. There's incredible.
I can't even imagine if my daughter was killed in that rape.
Unimaginable pain.
Unimaginable pain. I would be so angry that blood would fucking, nothing would matter.
Right.
I wouldn't care about anything else but getting even. I get it.
Yeah, I get it. I understand. But I think. But I think making a strictly pro-Israel documentary with the echo chamber of people being like, yay, gets us nowhere. And maybe if I make a documentary that's still not anti-Israel, it shows both sides and people can make up their own minds about it. Maybe someone that's pro-Palestinian will at least see a pro-Israeli side. I'm not asking them to become pro-Israeli, but maybe they can understand the other side more, as opposed to just jumping in a protest and protesting something they don't know about, but maybe they saw something, a poor Palestinian kid dead on the street and Israel's the bad guy, and they became pro-Israel because of that.
When does this come out?
Next year. It's honestly, it's taking me a little longer than expected, because
I can't imagine why.
Because filming it was one thing. It's already so draining to film it by myself. I mean, I film it with my friend Daniel Sternstein is my producing partner on it, and we had a small team, and it was great. But we filmed it ourselves, like just with my camera and a couple cameras. But I had to take a step away from it just because it's one thing to film it and then just to sit with the footage for hours and hours on end. I mean, I have
Can't
footage.
even imagine.
I have Nova survivors. Shai Klein is featured. He escaped the Nova Festival. He has given me a bunch of footage that he shot himself. He's a photographer. He shot a bunch of footage of him escaping, and he's literally filming dead bodies on the road. And it's one thing to see something on the news, but when your friend is giving you footage, raw footage,
different.
and you're just watching it, and you're watching him driving by all these dead bodies scattered in the streets, in the road, it's a different experience. And it's traumatic. It's traumatic to go through the footage and to cut this stuff. So it takes a lot out of you. So I'm taking a little bit of time to not look at it for a while,
and absorb it all.
And then also we're saturated with this content. I kind of want to like let it breathe a little bit.
Yeah.
Hopefully I pray that this war will end soon, and then wait a little bit and come out with it.
But when you were there, was there like any bombs going off, and did you experience any of that?
Yeah. So
I want to do the Chris Farley. What's that like? You know, like what was that like?
It was not fun.
I
was filming the entire time, I believe October 1st of last year, when the first Iran ballistic missile was launched at Israel, at Tel Aviv.
Okay.
And we were kind of bracing for it, not bracing for it, but like you can feel it kind of in the air. People were like, just being cautious. And anyway, I was with my camera with my friend Joel from, I did a volunteer trip. Basically, I did 3 volunteer trips within the last year and a half, almost 2 years of going out to Israel and helping farmers that had lost their workers after October 7th. A lot of the workers are from other countries, and they had to go back to those countries after October 7th. So we worked on an avocado farm. We worked on different farms, planting and harvesting fruits and vegetables and helping out for several weeks. So this is a trip where I had finished helping out for 6 weeks, and I had a week off, and I was just kind of walking around with my friend Joel, hanging out. He was on another trip there, and I was just filming him as we're kind of goofing around, walking around. And the streets were like really empty because people were like bracing for something. It wasn't official that they launched anything, but like the streets were empty.
Scary.
Yeah. And we were just walking around the beach on Tel Aviv, and it was getting kind of dark, and we ended up like just filming. I was just getting some B-roll on the beach as the sun set. And some guys came up to us, asked what we were doing. We started talking to them, drinking a beer. And then all of a sudden, as like the camera's rolling, my friend Joel gets a call from his cousin, and she was like, "Where are you?" He's like, "I'm at the beach." She was like, "You need to like get inside. There was just a terror attack in Yaffo," which was like a mile and a half away from us. Basically 2 Palestinians had gone on the train station and just basically slaughtered 8 people with machine guns, like down the street from where we were at.
Wow.
So we were like, and they hadn't caught these guys. They hadn't apprehended these guys. So we were like, okay, let's get off.
Yeah.
Like we're on I had driven by that train station when I was on the train like a week or 2 before, like that same station. So like, let's get the fuck out of here. But then we were like, and then at the same time, we were just like, well, Iran might attack too, and we might be in a bunker for the next few days. And there's like a liquor store right there. So I was like, let's just grab a bottle of vodka really quickly before we head in. Because like, if we're going to be stuck and we're potentially die, I might as well just like do it in style. So we're like, all right, let's just run into the liquor store. So we ran into the liquor store, and we knew the guys in the liquor store. They were cool. So we got the bottle of vodka. And as we were like coming out of the liquor store, we hear the sirens, and we're like, oh shit. So they're like, everybody, and like we're like on the street, and like everybody's like starts running on the street, and like this bus, and I'm filming all this, and this bus like pulls over, and all these like people start spilling out, and like everybody's like running into the shelter. So we're like, okay, let's go. And then we see a hotel that everyone's like going to this big driveway of like this big hotel, like the basement. So we like go down with all these people. My friend drops the bottle. Luckily, for some reason, it doesn't smash on the ground. I'm like, oh my God, let's pick that bottle up. We go down, we go into the basement.
Jesus Christ.
And it's like all these people, and some of them are just like laughing. Some of them look more tense. Like a lot of Israelis are used to this type of shit.
Yeah.
You know, I was used to going into the mamad, which is like the room in your apartment that's like more fortified, like the bunker. Basically, there's one room in each apartment or one house, at least the apartments we were staying in, that's like more fortified. So like heavy steel windows, all this, like the doors are double fortified. So we go down there, and granted, we're down there, so we're like, we don't know what's going on. And then all of a sudden we hear boom, and we thought, like, I was like, oh shit, we're getting bombed. But it was actually, we found out it was the Iron Dome that's like not too far away, just like firing up in the air to intercept the missile.
Bro, it's so scary.
But you hear like the ground shake beneath your feet, basically. It's like boom, and then people are like, some people are freaking out, some people are more calm.
No, thank you.
And then we're in there for a little bit, and then it kind of calms down, and then, but we still don't know about these terrorists from down the street. That's another thing. Like, we don't know where these people are. They weren't apprehended.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, and we're in this basement, and then there's like a gate. Like, basically we're in the basement, and there's a driveway that goes up, kind of like a long, kind of like a leveled driveway, like multi-story kind of like walkway that goes up several floors.
Okay.
And we just hear a woman screaming at the top of her lungs, like bloody murder. And we're kind of in this like enclosed area. I don't have any weapons. I have a camera. I'm just hearing women scream and other people start screaming. I don't see anything because the screams are coming from away from where all these people are in this basement, parking garage basement. In my mind, I'm like, oh, the terrorists are here from down the street, and this is it. And then your heart kind of like drops into your stomach a little bit. You're like, you kind of like fight or flight, and like, what do I do? But then luckily we realized that because of all the commotion and of all the booms, there was a woman with a dog that was like walking up one of the walkways upstairs, and the dog got too excited and jumped for the railing, and she was holding on to the dog's collar, and the dog was like choking to death. Luckily she let go of the dog, and the dog was okay. But that was like while the screaming was happening.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I didn't know that, and I was like, oh, okay, this is it.
It's over.
Not a good feeling. Not a good feeling.
Scary feeling. Did ever like your life flash before your eyes kind of shit?
I was just I didn't see like flashes of anything. I was just like, okay. I mean, it's not the first time that I thought I was going to die in my life. So I'm like, this is it?
You're accepting death though?
It was kind of more like, I don't have a gun. Am I going to fight these people with machine guns and trying to figure out like if I'm going to do that or if I'm going to run? But luckily nothing happened. It was just like, that was what thoughts were going through my mind. And then we were there for an hour. We ended up like getting wasted, like giving people shots.
Yeah,
and like we have like some great pictures, like random dudes that were like taking shots with us, like fuck it ran.
God, dude, what wild times. I feel like it's such a, we're fighting a battle that's we're fighting a battle in America against each other in the sense that we're not even involved in, you know? We have no involvement of it, and there's so much hatred going around. I just think like the most important thing we can do, like you said, is like we have to continue talking about it. We have to keep the dialogue open. We can't avoid these conversations, because if we avoid them, then I feel like it's not only like, you know, censorship, but it's the idea that I mean, it's literally what Charlie Kirk just said, you know, without dialogue, we just have civil war. You know, we just fight. And I think there's just been enough fighting. I just feel like we're a civilized society that just really has no room left for violence. And there's just got to be a point where you got to just fucking put the weapons down. It's like so easy to fucking say. It's like peace, you know, but it's just.
Yeah. I mean, it's very idealistic. It's easy to it's easy to be idealistic, especially over here when we're in a comfort or
right. I'm just
fancy
chilling.
little podcast studio. It's like, everybody just calm down.
Just everyone chill the fuck out.
Everyone just chill. But
everyone smoke some weed.
Yeah. It's, you know, it's a lot more complicated, unfortunately, out there. But yeah, I mean, I think fundamentally, yeah, there has to be a dialogue for change to happen. There has to be, and I really hope that it happens. I don't think it's going to happen fundamentally anytime soon, but I do think that it's possible.
Yeah, I hope so, man. I really do. I hope so for the sake of humanity, for the sake of my child. That I mean, another like reason that I do this podcast is like I want to learn more about people, but I want to have people on that I don't always agree with, that I see their takes, on social media or something, and I don't agree with it. And I want what I've found and is that even if you don't agree with someone, you'll find a commonality if you sit. Is that a word? A commonality?
Yeah.
Sick. You'll find a commonality. We're getting there, dude. You find a commonality if you sit down with almost anybody for 2 or 3 hours and have a conversation. You will find that you are all coming almost from this same exact place, which is so interesting to me because I'll maybe not get along with somebody or not even like them and then have a conversation. And then by the end of 2 hours or 3 hours, I'm like, fuck, dude, you're cool as shit. And we have a lot in common and like we're very much alike. And what? That was that one difference that, separates. And turns out we actually agreed on it. So I think like the most important thing is for us all to just like take a moment, and that's where you start. Like it's so easy for us to say in our comfort of our home that like, can't we all just get along? But we can. We all have to start somewhere though. And starting with sitting down and having a conversation with someone you don't agree with for 2 or 3 hours, and just starting with, where were you born? Tell me everything about you so I can learn. And then I can learn where you're coming from. That's where we start. And I know that's like such a idealistic, naive thing to say, but is it really for us to just say, hey, everyone who doesn't like somebody, take a day and sit down with them and have a fucking conversation and see if you guys can just find commonality in something.
I mean, I know people that are organizing these conversations in Ramallah, in Israel, in parts of the West Bank.
What's happening?
Palestinians and Jews. I mean, it's not impossible. And some people are risking their lives to do this.
That's what needs to happen. That's what we need to be. That's where I say, if you want to make a difference, like, this applies to everything, man. Art, creatorship. I mean, I'm not like the most like it's not the hottest market right now for art. So I found a space that needs to be filled. And I'm not saying like I'm something fucking special or some kind of guru, like, oh, like, whoa, like, let's all fucking thank John for taking his time. No, I literally am looking at it like, well, this isn't being filled. This is a space that needs to be filled. I have the time to do it because I'm not fucking selling a shitload of art in this market. I'm not really creating a lot of art because I want to be with my family. Here's a space that can be filled, that I can fix, that I can take the time because I can do this. And I enjoy it. That's the thing. It's like you have to find something you enjoy. You have to find something that you have, and that takes us all the way back to your childhood with creating art, creating film, to where you are today, to literally making a documentary about what's going on in this fucked up, complicated situation. I mean, you've made fucking comedy films that have been therapy for your family. Like the tell me the name, The Squatter.
Yeah.
So like The Squatter, like, and it's like, this is a part of all of what we're doing here, which is, in my opinion, humanity, and why I don't think AI will ever fucking take us out or any of that shit, because we were put here to build, to create, to evolve. That is the whole point. That's what I tell my child every fucking time when she says, what's the point of everything we do? I wake up every day, I go to jujitsu, I eat, I learn, I do everything the same thing. What is the point of all of this? To evolve, to become better, to achieve, to grow. So what we did in America, man, in the early fucking 40s, 50s, pounded our fucking chest and proud of what we fucking built skyscrapers. We fucking went to town, man. We fucking built Detroit. We built cars. We got our hands dirty. And then all of a sudden we said, we're going to get fucking lazy and make everybody else fucking do it. And we'll pay them half the amount, fuck a quarter of the amount. We need to get back to not the American dream of like living in that white picket fence and fucking consuming sugar until you have diabetes, but the dream of being self-sovereign, the dream of independence, the fucking forefathers that founded this country, that came here to escape religious persecution, that came here because they believed in a fucking land that could allow us to do whatever the fuck we wanted to do when we wanted to do it. And that's what we need to get back to. And I think right now, at this very fucking moment in history is no better time to discuss it because we have access to communication like never before. I can have a conversation with my buddy in Iran and discuss what's going on in Iran. I can have a conversation instead of sitting there and consuming the mass fucking propaganda media. I can now fucking reach out. And that's the most important thing we need to do instead of sitting there and watching CNN and Fox News and listening to the algorithm that tells us what we're supposed to think. Reach out to motherfuckers and be like, what's going on? Boots on ground. And once we start establishing, I think, a foundation where we can have a conflict of resolution, we'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the people that I see protesting in the streets, I'm like, okay, great. I see that you're siding with this side. Like, have you gone over there and have you talked to the people?
Yeah.
Have you? Are you just here in New York City, just protesting,
like waving a flag,
around,
burning an American flag or some shit?
Yeah, okay. But have you gone over there? Have you talked to those people? Have you? What would they think about your protesting? Would they agree with what you're protesting? Like,
right.
Or what does this sign mean? What is from the river to the sea? What river and what sea?
We have to talk.
Oh, you don't know what river and what sea? The Jordan River and the Mediterranean? You have
no fucking clue?
You have no clue? Oh, okay. So maybe you need to research what you're talking about before you go out in the street. But people don't even do the due diligence of researching.
They want to jump on something.
They want to jump on a bandwagon.
They want to be a part
trendy. It's trendy. It's easy to be pro-Palestinian. And
or it's easy to be pro-Israel. I think
it's harder to be pro-Israel because you're in the unpopular group.
It's easy in the sense that, like, if you only agree with your side and that's all you see, then it's real fucking easy.
Right.
If you're not paying attention. Now, I'm not saying I agree with any sides. I'm not fucking picking anything. What I'm saying is that it's easy to fucking choose and agree with something if that's the only one-sided, clouded, fucking bubbled conversation, echo chamber shit that you're having.
I don't see anybody saying they're pro-coexistence.
Fucking thank you. Can we be pro? Bro. Like, absolutely. Like, that's the most important conversation that we should be having. Can we be fucking pro-exist with everybody here? Because guess what, guys? We have a much bigger demon to fight right now, which is the AI overlords that are going to take all of our fucking jobs and leave us with nothing and no money and no fucking way to figure it out. Like, get your shit together, man. Unite. You know, the most beautiful thing that I ever saw was like 9/11 after it, of just everyone fucking thanking the firefighters. That was one of the most beautiful moments, man. People loved the firefighters. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, man, they were fucking heroes in the streets, bro. That was like such a beautiful moment in history that, like, why does it take such a catastrophic event for all of us to unite?
Well, in this case, it divided us.
I know, that's what's interesting, right? Yeah. It took 35 years or what? No, sorry, 35. What, 2002, 2001? Fuck, when was 9/11, bro?
2001.
2001. That's just how, my brain is mush. 2001, 9/11. So it's been 24 years and now it divides us with these fucking things. We hate the police. We hate the fire. It's like, what the fuck happened to America? What the fuck happened to the world? And I do worry for my daughter, but I'm excited for the future, excited for what's going to happen next. I live in the chaos and I thrive in the chaos because it's fucking interesting. Yeah. It just keeps me alive, man.
I mean, we're in the position where luckily we're not in these places in the world where,
thank God,
full of conflict and yes, America has its own conflicts, but nothing compared to these areas. So I
would actually beg to differ on that because it seems pretty fucking dangerous right now out in America. It seems like
it is. Yeah, I mean but it's still not you can't really compare it.
I haven't been, so I don't even know. So I can't. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you look at I mean, you see Gaza in real life. It's devastation.
It's so different.
It's just rubble, basically. Yeah. But you know, I think we can't get bogged down by the negativity of everything that's happening in the world, that it affects our present moment, because we have to continue living our lives and we have to continue finding a way to make it work, not just for ourselves, but hopefully do something that helps others as well.
And keep talking.
I mean, this is why I do these documentaries. This is why I volunteer, because instead of getting on online and arguing with my thumbs with these chatbots.
Fucking commenting on a YouTube fucking channel with a chatbot.
Which I do sometimes. I can't resist. Sometimes I can't resist.
It's one of my vices too. I get it.
But that's what inspired me to go over there to Israel. Is just be like, this is not productive. If I'm really want to change, I'm gonna go and volunteer with these farmers.
Boots on the ground.
I'm going to go talk with these Palestinians. I'm going to engage in a dialogue. I'm going to do something that's maybe uncomfortable. Maybe I'll learn something new, but at least I'll do it right there. And I'll have a perspective, and I can say like, okay, that's great. Your protest's cute and all. And your little flag is cute,
but I was there.
I was there.
Yeah.
You know, so, but I think it's important to do things that maybe not necessarily comfortable or fit with the status quo, but that maybe enriches your outlook on humanity, and maybe you can use that to help others or help others see something in a different light.
Well, Joseph, I respect the fuck out of what you're doing. It's impressive, man. I do respect it. To anyone who is listening, if I offended you with my naive talk about not understanding anything that's going on, please don't be offended. I'm doing the best I can.
I'm not going to apologize for offending anyone.
No, as you shouldn't, because you know a lot more about this shit than I do. I wasn't there. I don't know enough. I can only talk from the viewpoint of you, who's been there and watching TV. So, Joe, it's almost 2 a.m.
Is it?
Yeah, we've been going, I think, for over 3 hours. So nice. This has fucking been an incredible conversation. Thank you for your fucking time. Thank you for just teaching me so much about your viewpoints, your career. It's been an incredible conversation. For anybody who's listening that doesn't know who you are, where can they find, all your shit?
Yeah, so you can find me on my Instagram, which is Ruzer, my last name, Ruzer Pictures, Ruzer Pictures, as well as RuzerPictures.com.
RuzerPictures.com. And where can they find your movies? You have a bunch of movies that you've created that are fucking phenomenal, by the way. And we didn't even get into that, but like people should really watch like some of your comedies, which are by far some of the funniest fucking movies I've seen.
Thank you. You can watch The Squatter and Bodega, as well as my documentary on competitive eating with Joey Chestnut and Takeru Kobayashi called Scarf Face on Amazon Prime and Apple TV Plus.
All right, man. Thank you again. Anybody who's listening, look him up, man. He's an incredible artist, incredible movie creator, just all around very interesting human, man. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, bro.
Likewise. Thank you.